start streaming. We are live on the tube.
No way.
We are live on the tube.
Uh-oh.
We're live. We're live on the tube, boys. Right.
Is anybody watching yet? That's the question.
No, are they?
No, not yet.
Hashtag JFork straight in. Right then. I need a beer. Beer. We want more beer. All the lads are cheering. Get the fucking beers in. Right. Wow. He's even sent me a brand new bottle. The seal was still intact. Right then, Mr. Brooks. See what this one's all about.
Oh,
there you go, Chris.
Is that the raspberry wit?
Oh, good lad. He bought 4.
I had that one last night, Chris.
Is it all right?
Yeah.
Not shite.
Fucking awful.
That's all right. Okay.
Gotta get notes up. There we go.
Okay, I've got a few people watching now.
I've got nobody showing on mine yet.
Oh, we got Mr. Brooks himself and Luke Stevens.
Yes.
The usual
Luke made it.
I wonder if Richard was there in time for you saying his beer was shit there.
After I just got them, actually, Richard. They came in the post just there. So they're in the fridge.
I've given him his official feedback from me already. So
no, I just
it's nice and clear, Richard. Look, you can even see my ugly face through it.
Oh, that is incredible. That's good.
Yeah. Did you notice how I never said it was shit, Richard? Have you noticed how it was the other Richard who said it was shit? It wasn't me.
No.
I've
Not
even tasted it yet.
That's not correct.
Yeah. Twat.
Here we go. Was it here
Oh,
now?
Come on. Just the right amount of tartness. Okay. Harry, you ready to rock and roll?
I'm ready.
We got all Audacity set up.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Audacity. That'd be a good
It's
thing.
recording. See, it says it's recording. Harry, just switch out, double check. It's saying, see the microphone. It's definitely saying your Rode input one.
Yep. It's coming in through a USB attachment, so I've got that right.
Cool.
Okay, gentlemen. 3, 2, 1. Click it.
Yeehaw.
We're
How
on.
about you, Tricky? Do you think?
Cool. We all good recording, yeah?
Yep.
We're all good.
Yep, got it.
What was that? Okay, right. Let's get it started then. Right, good evening. We are doing episode 29 tonight, and the topic for discussion on this pod is going to be recipe development. Now, one of the usual awesome foursome is not able to make it tonight, so Owen, unfortunately, is what's he done? He's gone on holiday or something, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Just outrageous behaviour going on holiday when he should be doing a pod. But we brought in a super sub to take up his place on the team tonight. We've got the one, the only HarryBrews sitting in and helping us out with recipe development, which is certainly something that I'm sure he's got some very interesting things to talk about on this pod. Now, just before we get into all of that fun stuff, just want to quickly mention that I am currently doing a charity raffle via my YouTube channel. So it's in aid of Diabetes UK and NHS charities together. So if you want to pop over to the Dudes Brews channel, and you can find the links to that raffle and a video explaining what that's all about, and some pretty good prizes there up for grabs as well. So
I mean, they're reasonable.
Reasonable prizes.
Pretty awesome prizes, to be fair.
There's a lot of them anyway. So what it doesn't, I'm making up for quality through quantity, at least, if anything else. But anyway, so do please go and check that out if you haven't already done so. And we'll leave that there, and let's get on with the pod.
I have something that I would like to say. before this goes any further, and I know this isn't something that we normally do in this podcast. We don't get political and all that lot, but there was an incident in Wakefield recently, and for those of you who don't know, I work in a school or college technically, and one of the things about sort of working in a college is you're exposed to all people, all creeds, all colours, all genders, whatever. And it's Pride Week. So whatever your orientation, do your thing, stay you, be you. Don't let anyone ever tell you that you can't be you. I just want to say that.
Absolutely. Well done, Chris.
Thank you. I just hate the French.
Okay, then. So, yeah, we're going to get into recipe development shortly, but let's do our usual little whip round and chat about what we're drinking. So, Chris has already sculled one beer that was mine, so he's not going to be talking about that one. But what was the second one that you got out of the tank?
Well, the first one that I destroyed was Dunkelfester, which is one of Tricky's, which is a Dunkelweizen, 4.5%. Everybody knows all about it. That lasted like 4 mouthfuls. It was gone. And I am currently drinking from Brewcat Brewery, Mr. Richard Brooks himself. It is Raspberry Beret, which is a raspberry wit beer, which is actually really rather nice. Harry, you're going to have to put up with me singing, mate. It happens a lot. It's a fantastic beer, and to be fair, I don't see this one lasting very much longer than the Dunkel, I'll be honest. Really tart. Lovely sort of the writing on the side's far too. Richard, seriously, I wear glasses, mate, and I don't have a microscope to hand. What are you playing at? But it's got some alcohol in it. That's all I can read. And it's really nice. It's got that lovely tart, that refreshing tartness on the back of your tongue. It's very, very good. To the point where if you don't send me the recipe, then basically I'm just going to tell everyone it was shit.
Chris, have you had Luke Stevens one?
That's a TV beer, mate. That's in the house.
That's the TV. Nice. I had it last night. It was good as well. So
yeah, I've got one of them in the fridge actually.
Yes.
Yeah, this is where it all comes together. This is the nexus for the BrewTube Beer Swap group. This is a really, really nice beer. This is.
Me and Tricky had to actually get wrecked last night to try and make some space in the old.
Exactly. Had to clear the fridge out a little bit.
Clear it out because and then obviously today, then more appears. So it was probably a good call.
Nobody has any idea the level of effort that we have to go through to do this podcast properly, do they, guys?
That's it's hard work.
We had to get mashed last night to be able to make room for all the beer mail that you guys keep sending us.
Hard times.
First world problems.
First world, that's it.
Come on, Harry, what are you drinking, mate?
Well, tonight, as you might expect, I've got one of my own beers in hand. And seeing as we're talking about recipe development, I think this one slots in perfectly because it's a basic recipe. And it's one that we have all spoken about before. It is my best bitter, which was developed as a clone to a well-known commercial bitter. And strangely, this was one of the beers that was ultimately made to be boring, which you don't find that very often in a homebrewer's recipe book. So I'm necking a few tins of Harrison's Best at 4%.
Sesh.
Session.
Absolutely, sesh level.
On the bevies.
Go on then, Trick, what you got?
Well, as I had it in the keg and Harry is on this episode, it had to be my version of Vacant Gesture tonight. It would have been rude not to get this one down at some point.
I don't know whether that's brave or stupid. I'll be honest. I don't know.
He's not. He can't taste it via the internet. So like,
he's a professional brewer, mate. He'll judge it based on colour.
Well, there you go. What do you think, Harry? Is it measuring up there?
Yeah, nice and bright.
Yeah,
I think you look like you've almost got the colour there. Maybe a little bit too clear.
Too clear.
Yeah. They can sometimes carry a little bit.
I'll go and shake the keg up a little bit for you. For that
Unfined, unfiltered.
So yeah, I mean, I don't really need to say much about Vacant because everyone's talked about this one at length before, and there probably is a video on the channel back from when I last did, I think. But I went back to the original tried and true recipe on this one.
Is it Mosaic?
Yeah, all mosaic. So I've tinkered with it in the past and tried different hop combos, but I mean, again, coming back to sort of recipe development, is pretty clear, having fucked about with it, that it does just work best as it's originally written. So yeah, no need to bother trying to swap out the hops and finding different combos. Although it is a great recipe for testing different hops out, I think. So
I've just done a couple of batches recently, and on one of them I just changed up the grain bill slightly by just adding some Crystal 110, and that one's got Galaxy and Amarillo in it. And then I did another one which was basically just the vacant recipe with Simcoe substrate out, and it's a perfect platform, I think, for experimenting with.
It totally is.
Different hop flavors.
Yeah, I've done it quite a lot. I've done a whole load of beers, just swapping out and changing the hops. So like Citra, I'm pretty sure. I've done a Galaxy as well in the past with some other hops as well. Sabro, I think, Galaxy Sabro. But it just gives such a clean, crisp sort of finish on it that it just showcases, it allows the hops to shine, doesn't it, really?
Absolutely, yeah.
So, Harry, when that beer's released, the one with the Galaxy in it, what's it going to be called?
I'm not sure yet. We've got a cask in the cellar ready to go, and it's not gone on the pumps this weekend because I've not come up with a name for it. I want to move away from maybe the vacant gesture tagline for it, and instead of just calling it vacant Simcoe or vacant Galaxy Amarillo or whatever, I was thinking about coming up with something a bit catchy and a bit witty.
Call it Brian.
Brian sounds good enough to me.
Just
you heard it here
Brian
first, people.
Brian is the tap.
Life the next must-have beer.
You could do a series of beers naming them after the first name of famous musicians, and go straight in with the curly fop head Brian May.
Yeah. Has he got copyright on his image on the internet? 'Cause that's where I'm stealing it from, I think.
Who cares? Just stick it up. He's never going to come to your pub. Well, I mean, he might do. It's unlikely.
It's unlikely.
I'm not entirely sure that perm would fit through the door, would it really?
What about the staff, Harry? You could do it after all the staff, so you could call it Stuart or something like that.
Yeah, I think Gypsy Hill Brewery have done something similar,
so
and they've gone down all the the staff, the packagers, the brewer, and they've not called them directly the names of the brewer, but like the sports that they're into. So they've got a beer called Baller, for instance. I think 'cause one of them plays basketball, and that's the kind of
they have
route
like a
they've gone
cartoon
down.
picture of them on the cans, don't they? I think.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
We're a bit blonde bombshell, but then I think in the whole,
it's a bit misogynistic, isn't it?
Yeah,
I think,
exactly.
in the current climate.
In the current climate, it's like
no, you could call that a tribute to Debbie Harry.
Debbie Harry,
Blondie.
Yeah.
I'm just explaining it.
No, again, it's like
no, I'm just explaining it for the two people at the bottom with a vacant gesture on their face. You see what I did there?
See, this is all part of recipe development where you actually have to come up with the names.
It is.
There you go. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, come on, Andy. Anyway, tell us what you're drinking, for God's sake.
So I've got a JMac beer, which is the homebrew experience on Instagram, and it's a Marzen 4.7. Yeah, and just classic. It's got that nice kind of bready caramel thing.
Has it got the toffee on it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's very much. I don't know if this is actually your recipe, Chris.
No, I don't think it is.
I don't think it is.
I mean, it might be. I don't know.
It's very similar.
Well, let's just say I'll find out pretty soon.
If you got it, yeah.
Look at the camera, boy.
That's it. That's exactly it. So no, it's lovely. Very nice, easy drinking. Yeah, enjoyable.
I'll just let you know they're in about an hour and a half. I could be fucking assholed.
Well, what's new?
I don't normally get pissed. I'm normally the sober one of the podcast.
You are normally sober one.
Oh, is that right? Yeah, okay.
You have had a few instances.
What, where I nearly fell asleep and fell off my chair, yeah. So, that's what we're drinking. So, is everybody happy with their beer? I'm assuming Harry is, since he's selling it and making money off of it. Tricky, obviously happy. You are, because basically you're selling one of Harry's beers. I mean, not selling. Did I give something away there? Ooh. You're making Harry's beers, clearly. I'm drinking something that is crystal clear and is gorgeous, and Andy is drinking probably the greatest beer on the face of the earth. So I think it's time to move on.
Yes.
We have an
I agree.
awful echo that it's going to be a nightmare for Tricky to clean up.
Who's got an echo?
I'm thinking it's probably Harry.
You get headphones on, Harry?
I've got one in here, yeah.
Yeah, we've
I
got some.
can't.
So,
I can hear it every time I talk, just like that. Yeah, there's an echo coming through. You're editing this one, Tricky.
Well, I can't hear it on my feed anyway. But...
No, neither can I.
Probably because my headphones are turned up so loud because I'm deaf. Okay. Who?
Anyway, move on.
Go on, Tricky. You lead us in.
Oh right, I thought I'd already done it. Okay, I'll go. I'll start us off again. So, recipe development. We'll start this off by having a look at some of the sort of sources for recipe inspiration and the different places you might get your ideas from, things like that. Tonight, obviously, we've got the usual sort of home brewing perspective, but we've also got Harry here for a little bit of a commercial insight as well from. But as somebody who's gone from, the home brewing sort of side of things all the way through to what you're doing now, Harry, which should be quite interesting for us all to see that side of it, hopefully, as well.
Hopefully, I don't let you down.
Fingers crossed. So, yeah, we'll talk through a few things sort of in terms of where we get our recipe ideas from and why we sort of go to those sources for inspiration, I suppose. Now, I think right at the top of the list, I think we put this one early just to avoid Chris having some sort of meltdown if it was too many beers in later on. But yeah, we had sort of BJCP.
You've missed a line.
Missed the line.
You've missed the selecting what you want to brew bit.
Oh, okay. Well, that's kind
you
of
did the notes, man.
That's all kind of tied in with recipe inspiration, isn't it?
Let's go with BJCP. I'll get my bit over, and then we can all move on.
Yeah, okay. We'll let Chris have his little rant, and then. But the reason we've got BJCP in there, I think that was specifically when we were talking beforehand, and Harry was discussing this as well. For basically beers where you don't really, necessarily have an idea of what the kind of parameters are for it, or what the general, sort of typical ingredients or the range of gravities, IBUs, etc., might be. BJCP guidelines are a good place to start, I would say.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you need to have some ground rules in place, don't you, before you start to put a recipe together. You wouldn't exactly chuck in, 5 or 6 handfuls of black patent malt into a pale ale that you wanted to make. So looking at the BJCP guidelines, I think just gives you a loose but useful kind of reference guide as to what you need to be aiming for when you're developing something that you might not be as familiar with. So I think they are a valuable resource to go and have a look at.
I'm actually going to back Harry up on this one. And I know this will surprise a lot of people, but I really will. Because the clue's in the name, okay? It's a pale ale, all right? The very definition of pale is not containing handfuls of black malt. So, I can appreciate where Harry's coming from. I may not necessarily agree with certain styles that the BJCP do, but I've matured a lot over the last few weeks. I've calmed down. And to be fair, I can see where Harry's coming from. It's nice to have a box that your beer is going to fit into for a lot of people, big fish, little fish, cardboard box. But we got a lot of people who they want their beers to be of a certain style. And I agree with Harry that, yes, having certain parameters is good. However, yeah, I don't necessarily agree with the times of year that they say you're supposed to brew them.
Yeah, that's not something I often look at. It's just more parameters, ABV, starting gravities, expected kind of mouthfeel, whether there's going to be any acceptable haze or diacetyl remaining in the bit, all these kind of things. And I think the BJCP guidelines have been put together by people going around and obviously trying different styles of beer. So they've had to pigeonhole them somehow to be able to differentiate from one style to the next. And that has obviously just led to a useful kind of reference for brewers to look at.
Is there any BJCP police out there?
Well, you get the judges, I think, don't you? Probably take it a little bit more seriously than everybody else. But
what about
don't know their arsehole from their elbow?
What about on a Untapped? Would you get people complaining that it wasn't to style on that?
Absolutely. I think if you've really kind of missed the mark with your recipe, and then you've made it available to the public and you're selling it, you're going to get shot to shit, aren't you? I think by people pulling you, they pull your recipes and your beers to pieces anyway on Untapped. So what you don't want to do is feed the bear. I think it's better to, try and label your product correctly, if nothing else. And but you can also spin it the other way and do it on purpose just to wind them all up on Untapped, I think.
Yeah.
As somebody who deals with all the comments that come through onto the Hop Edition website, I have to say that there's a lot of people who complain just for the sake of complaining.
Yeah.
They've still drunk the beer. They've still paid money. They've still most likely enjoyed it. But they're still complaining that it was, this is 0.2 points on EBC over the BJCP guidelines because they've all got adenoids.
I think ultimately it's just giving you a kind of ballpark, sort of reference for where certain beers should sit in terms of, the numbers and the ingredients and all that kind of stuff, which, at the end of the day, a lot of people might decide to brew a beer that they don't really know about, or they've not tried it themselves, or they just want to get a feel for where it actually sits in terms of those kind of parameters. And for, some beers, it would be a lot better going into the BJCP guidelines than going to some sort of dubious, commercial version that uses that style name but isn't really representative of it. I mean, let's say, for example,
people label, it sells, sex sells.
Yeah, exactly. All the sort of variations. I mean, heaven forbid somebody goes and tries like Green King IPA and decides to base their IPA sort of, recipe formulation off of the back of that experience. You know what I mean? So, that's, I guess, where you see, sort of abuses of the style guidelines, which are maybe not so helpful for it.
Could we utilize an example from the podcast in that that fantastic brewery Brew York with their Yorkshire bitter that I had on the podcast a few podcasts ago? Could we utilize that as maybe somebody who's shitting all over the BJCP guidelines and deserves, as a brewery, to take untold amounts of crap for what they produce? Just put it out there live, because that was not.
I mean, you tried it, so yeah. If you say so.
I'm not, Harry. In your experience, given the fact that you're drinking a bitter right now, would you say that a bitter should be the same color as a Pilsner and just as carbonated?
No,
there
I don't
we go.
think so.
Fuck you, Brew York.
But I'm also going to say it should have a good, a good half-inch of head on top of it as well. A good pint of bitter.
This had 3/4 of a pint of head on top of it.
And served on cask, ideally.
Yeah.
But that's my opinion.
Yep.
I would love to go down that route, but my beer engine ain't. Actually, Harry, afterwards, I need to talk to you about the possibility of spare parts.
Okay. I can import them from China. You mean kidneys, liver?
No, I mean, I just need a new penis, but...
You can just strap that on.
Hey! 15 minutes in, boom. Right. I agree with what everybody said about the BJCP guidelines. As an opening gambit, as a starting box,
Did you hear
it's
that?
a good
Did you
place.
hear that?
Who is this guy? This isn't.
No. Hang on. Because while you guys are all laughing, I'm simply going to point out the bit in brackets at the end of the notes that says, "Evolve it to be your own." There we go. Evolve that style. Don't just sit with what you've got. Improve it. This is the first and this is the second word in the title of the podcast: development. Don't stick with what you've got unless you happen to hit a home run on the first ball and you are not Derek Jeter. Just evolve it. Turn it into something that you want and basically evolve it and develop the recipe, get it more suited to your palate. You're the one who's going to be drinking it as a home brewer. Okay. For Harry, it's the rest of the world that's going to be drinking it. But I'm pretty sure he's got a decent palate, because otherwise he wouldn't be doing what he's doing.
You have to
So
be a bit more safer, yeah.
The bottom line is you're going to develop it to what you want. In Harry's case, he's going to develop it to what his customers want, whereas we're going to develop it to what we want, because ultimately we are the customer.
Yeah.
Indeed. So,
sorry. I was just going to say that you're saying evolving your own styles. Like, that's how we got new styles. That's how, you know, we got NEPAs and all that. You know, it's about kind of continuing evolving, creating new styles as well.
Yeah, I mean, you just have to look at like the categorizations from some of our British organisations, such as Camera. They categorize all their beers, like pretty much every beer under the sun kind of goes into 6 groups. The BJCP just expands on that. So all of these styles are styles within styles. And I don't think there is a box drawn around every single style. They've got opportunity to evolve in any direction. And when they move far enough away from the original kind of guidelines for that style, becomes a new style. Whether it's on the list, you might have created a new style, or it just evolves into a different style, just like the next box down or across or whatever.
Yeah.
There are some boxes that don't deserve to be populated, though. Like the Mango Lassi Sour West Coast IPA.
New one on me.
Not sure they've categorized that one on BJCP yet, but
give them time. Give them time.
It'll be there eventually.
Is that under the style baby puke?
That is the one under baby vomit. Yes.
So yeah, BJCP has its place, I guess. I mean, I think in some cases you probably use it more as a reference once you've sort of decided what you want to brew. I mean, personally, I tend to find a lot of inspiration in, you know, commercial beers that I've tried, and you know, going off of those rather than trying out a million different recipe ideas myself. I'll sort of see a beer that I like and then kind of try and develop something similar. I mean, case in point, not that I'm changing it at all, but brewing, you know, Harry's vacant recipe here. Why reinvent the wheel? I guess essentially it's I mean, the great thing about homebrewing is you do have the facility to sort of play around and brew lots of different things, but equally I don't want to be, you know, necessarily repeating the same recipe 100 times in order to try and refine something that I've built completely from scratch. I don't know what you guys, you know.
Yeah, I think people as well. I mean, I look at what other commercial brewers are doing around me and around the world, what's popular, what's selling, what I'm interested in, something that I might want to try that I've not tried before. And I think homebrewers do that as well, but they can also look to other homebrewers. I mean, at the moment, we've just seen a massive run of dozens of people using this new yeast that's come out, this Wild Brew Philly Sour, and everyone's banging out these raspberry Philly Sours.
Yeah. So
people are looking that, you know, over the shoulder at what the next guy's doing.
Hey, there it is.
So yeah, keep your eyes peeled. You know, somebody might have invented something that's really, really exciting, and it'll take off. Just keep brewing, keep looking around. You know,
I think that's definitely another source of inspiration for a lot of people when you do get these new ingredients and you know, yeasts or new hops or, you know, whatever, or even sort of new equipment and techniques of process as well. People will use that as inspiration for you know, new recipes or new recipe ideas. And I think we're very lucky at the moment. There seems to the stuff that's available to homebrewers seems to be, you know, marching forward at such a pace right now, because there's so much more demand for it, I guess. And it's kind of going hand in hand with the sort of craft beer scene generally, I guess, that people want the newest and the best and the freshest sort of, you know, flavors and ingredients and whatever they can get from their beers. So there's things like the Philly Sour yeast coming out, and it's just giving people a lot more opportunity to do stuff that they maybe wouldn't have tried at all in the past, particularly ingredients like that, where it's allowing you to get into the kind of sour beer side of things without necessarily worrying about potentially infecting all your equipment and stuff like that.
Because it was the homebrew game has really moved on. I think Hapless posted about it when he was reviewing Luke's Raspberry Sour, and he was saying, these days it's very unlikely to get a bad beer mail through the post because, like we say, all this new kit, new bits of the new yeasts and all that sort of thing really kind of does move things on quite a bit.
Yeah, every aspect of home brewing and brewing in general is seeing a massive, a high turnover in development. You've got new hops coming out all the time, new yeast coming out all the time. Even the malts, even people's analysis of water chemistry, it's happening so often now. Everybody's getting their water analysed so they can play with it. And, 20, 30 years ago, you kind of just stuck with a bucket and a kit from Boots. And now the whole world's opened up to us. And I think because craft brewing's seen such a resurgence in the past decade or so, it's brought the home brewers along with it, And I suppose a lot of them are responsible for this resurgence, this interest in beer, holistically, because they want more choice and more selection. So I think breweries are looking at home brewers as well as brewers looking at home brewers looking at breweries. I think it works both ways. That's why you see a lot of these breweries doing competitions to get the home brewers on board, pinch the recipes a little bit.
There you go.
You should do one, Harry.
Tricky.
I'll send you my Marzen recipe.
Yeah, it'll be on the bar in like 4 weeks, and I'll have rebranded it.
As long as you call it miserable twat, we're golden.
But that's a thing. I mean, I was just saying, Tricky, like that's an opportunity for us as home brewers or YouTubers sort of thing to actually do a bit of work with local breweries as well, and do a bit of recipe development. Yeah.
One of the ones local to me, Free Hills, did that competition fairly recently where they sent out, a pretty substantial quantity of Artenum cryo hops, and you kind of think, oh well, that seems very generous of them to do that. But obviously, on the flip side of it, they then are basically rebrewing the winning entry. So perhaps they just had a shitload of Artenum they didn't really know what to do with, and they thought, let's get somebody else to do a recipe for us. But
I think that's what it comes down to.
I'm sure that there was some other reasons for them setting up their sort of online home brewing club and everything else.
So they got the beer mail.
They got a massive piss up out of it as well. Yeah, they had like 50 odd entries that they went through in a weekend. So, but yeah, I mean, people are doing that, so it's interesting.
Yeah.
If you look at it from a logical standpoint, okay, I'm a big reader of the news and I'm a big reader of current events and stuff like that. But if you look back sort of 15, 20 years, you had SETI, okay, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. Now, they didn't have the computing power to be able to go through all the data that they had. So they got everybody else to do it. So they just just sent out this distributed computing network, which was everybody who had a PC. And all of a sudden, everybody's crunching SETI. They're doing the same thing now. In 2010, there was a...
They're all mining Bitcoin now.
Exactly. That's why video cards are $1,000 a piece.
Yeah.
But there was a thing in 2010 where they were trying to work out the correct protein folding for a monkey that caused an AIDS-like disease in monkeys. They didn't have the power to do it. They didn't have the technological capability to do it. So they sent it out to gamers, okay, online gamers. In 3 weeks, they'd finished it. So they gave it to the gaming world, and in 3 weeks, they'd finished it. That's all breweries are doing. They're saying, we don't know what we're going to brew. So here you go, you 150, 200,000 people who are going to enter this competition. Send us your styles. What works, we'll brew it. Also known as free product development.
That's right, yeah.
That's what it is. Fantastic.
I mean, I wouldn't be able to crunch... I would not be able to crunch any of these numbers or protein folding on my computer, though. I still have to shovel coal in the back of it to get it to work.
Feed the hamster, mate. Feed the hamster. That's what it's down to, though, isn't it? You've got this ability. You have this wonderful group of people who are doing it as a hobby, and they want to develop recipes. They want to develop beers that they want to drink. If they want to drink it, there's a pretty good chance that other people want to drink it. And if there's enough people who send in a beer that they and their mates want to drink, there's a pretty good chance you're going to get a good beer out at the end of it.
Yeah, and there's nothing more satisfying, because I've done it myself several times, seeing people drink your beer on a bar. Yeah, it's a pretty good feeling.
Several times? Don't you own a bar, Harry?
I do.
So just once or twice. You've had a couple of customers in then.
Yeah, well, I tend to kind of sit in the back and, not tell anybody who I am. I don't tend to wear any merch or anything when I'm in there. I just look around and look at people enjoying it, and you get a little bit of feedback. And sometimes we'll get a member of staff like Froggy. He's a real pain in the arse for it. He points me out to everybody, and he's like, "That's the brewer over there." When I'm kind of skulking in the background, just like lapping it up, enjoying the moment. And then
is that just when somebody's got a complaint, or when they've actually got something nice to say?
Usually when they've got something nice, actually.
Oh, that's good at least.
Yeah, but then I end up kind of having to talk to them for the rest of the evening about brewing, which isn't a bad thing. But Gemma might be sat at the side of me, and she's like, okay, "Here we go again." That's me gone for like 5 hours.
We're going to hear about fucking Littner values again, for God's sake. It's a great thing, and it's a wonderful thing. And I mean, I've worked in a brewery as well, and I know what it's like. You see people drinking your beer and enjoying it, and it is a great feeling. But at the same time, you're on your downtime. You don't want to put up with that shit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a sucker for punishment. I'd go in there, and I don't mind talking beer all day. It's just who I'm sat with might not be too keen on it.
Well, you volunteered to come on here, Harry, so okay.
No family around, though, you'll notice.
Yes.
So they voted with their feet tonight.
I thought you'd sent them all out to Burger King.
No, not McDonald's.
Oh, right. Is the nearest one still the services on the A1?
Yeah.
Thought so.
Stuck out that way.
No, it's just down the road from Robin Hood Raceway. So, let's talk about how you develop your recipes. Let's talk about how it is that we take an idea and turn it into a pint in a glass. And I think the first thing would be to hand this one over to Harry, because I was sat with absolute raptured amazement at what he was saying when we were talking on Wednesday. And I think it's ideal for Harry to be able to pick this point up and just run with it.
What did I say again?
You said what's popular at that time of the year.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've developed recipes in the past where I've just kind of looked in the freezer and gone, right, I've got that hops. What malt have I got? Oh, it's pale. Looks like I'm just going to be doing, an Amarillo pale ale. That's it.
Amarillo Galaxy.
But, yeah. But no, I tend to these days have a look at what everyone else is doing. Like I say, and then when it comes down to developing the recipe itself, seasonal variations can come into it. We might be looking at what time of year it is. There's the old kind of chestnut where nobody brews a stout in summer because they're not going to be drinking stouts. No one's buying stouts really in summertime. So it's important to know your market in that respect, and you've got to brew to demand. So this is one of the reasons why I've just done this variation with the vacant gesture recipe, because I know it's a dead easy drinking kind of style, and it isn't going to alienate the customers. That it's not a massive step for them to leap onto another hand pump and try something different, because it's going to look similar in the glass, it's going to smell similar, and it's hot outside, and it's a perfect kind of drink for the year, like hoppy blonde ale. They sell all day at this time of year. So I look at seasonal variations, also depending on what kind of hop varieties are available on the spot market. A lot of breweries will forward contract, particularly their hops. There are some maltsters trying to get us to forward contract malts as well now, but I don't think that's such like a key aspect of recipe development, because the malts are mainly always readily available, but there are certain varieties of hops that you just can't get on the spot market. And I don't forward contract any of mine at the minute, so I am playing a little bit of roulette when it comes to getting the varieties that I need for my regular beers, such as the vacant. Then also if anything new's coming out, we'll be looking at what's the ghost of the day, what's exciting. This is why we've had to play with this Philly sour yeast. And then once I've decided what's available to me, we'll just sit down and pick a beer style and kind of piece together slowly a recipe. And then hopefully trial it on the small kit before I go on to the big one straight away. Because I have done a few straight to kind of commercial batch size brews in the past, and there's definitely nothing more heartbreaking than tipping a beer down the drain. And when you're doing 500 litres of it, everyone's saying, why can't you just still it? Get the alcohol out of it. But it's like need a big still.
It's a whole different license, is that one?
Absolutely, yeah. There's that as well.
Do you know what you could do if that ever happens again, Harry? You could just send it out to all your homebrew mates.
Well, this is the thing, you see. When you've got a commercial beer like that,
it's got a reputation, Chris.
Yeah, you're not going to put your name on it, so you don't want to send it out to anybody because they still know that you've brewed it. So you're better off dumping the batch. Yeah. I mean, if it'd be difficult for me to get through, because I might like step up to the plate and go, I'll try and power through this 1,000 pints myself. But if I can't drink it, then I'll
4 days.
4 days to the first hospital.
I have contemplated filling the mash tun up with it and getting in and having like a big beer jacuzzi.
Whereas I could appreciate what you're saying there. It is very different when you're having to use 15 kilos of hop in a batch as opposed to, 600 grams or, in Tricky's case, less than 100 with the last beer that he sent us.
Yeah.
It is a massive difference. Whereas from a homebrew standpoint, when you're developing a recipe, it's pretty much what do you want to brew. We have the ability to brew pretty much whatever we want, whenever we want, at any time of the year. So it's much, much different brewing commercial to brewing homebrew. I mean, I've known me in March, April, May brew stouts purely so that I can have a stout on hand for when my dad comes over for a barbecue. And that is the complete difference between what we can do as homebrewers, because we're only making 40 pints of it. And it's not really a hardship tipping 40 pints down the drain. Pouring 1,000 pints down the drain. Or drinking it anyway. For Harry, pouring, 1,000 pints down the drain, he's watching money wash down that grate.
Yeah,
and that's a massive difference.
Why you might want to tip it down the drain as well is you want to get something else in that keg. There's no point sitting on a beer thinking, I wonder if I just leave it for 6 months, it's going to age out. Maybe that dice will clear up or whatever. It's dead money, isn't it? It's just sat there doing nothing. And if it doesn't happen, fair enough. If you've got kind of 15, 20 corny kegs and you just don't mind sticking one in a corner of a cold garage somewhere, that's fine. But on a commercial scale, all of the items in the brewery have to kind of pay for themselves. So if I've got casks sat there either empty or with stale beer in, they're not making me any money. No. So we need to ump that stuff out and get something else in there. And that's also one of the reasons why you'll not see us doing too many massive variations of style in the summertime, because I need all of my packaging stock to hold the beer that my customers are actively drinking now. So that's another constraint that's there. We've recently just ordered an extra 20 kegs to try and cope for the fact that I'm going to be pushing out more craft beer styles onto the pump. So we just don't have the packaging stock to hold all this stuff.
There's a lot of things that come into it on a commercial scale, but on a homebrew scale, there's no such concerns. You're only going to brew what you've got space. You're only ever going to brew what you've got space for.
Yeah, exactly.
You tell me anyone.
8 kegs. Yeah.
You tell me anyone who's going to make a beer and leave it in the fermenter on the off chance that in 2 weeks they're going to have a keg free.
Sometimes what you do is you bottle it. Some people, if it's a beer that I've done in the past and it's like, it's not quite right, and I want to brew, because you always want to brew. Then it's like, back in the early days, maybe when I had 2 kegs on, what we'd do is maybe there was about, half a keg or something, you would just bottle it and then just say, right, I'll put it at the side and then see if it improves any better on that.
Yeah,
I've done
we can at the minute. Now we've set the machine up, and we could put beer into can and sit it to one side if I had something that I thought might improve with age a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's a risk because obviously you're paying for that can stock. So then if it does go wrong, 1,000 times, to tip it all out and get rid of it. And then there's also the consideration of the seasons. Again, I've just had to extend the cold rooms because all this can stock that we've got now, it'll not sit in the brewery at these temperatures. The brewery, when I went in this morning, was it was about lunchtime I got there, and it was around 23 degrees, 24 degrees inside. And of course, all the chillers are in there, kicking the heat out of the fermenters and the cold rooms into the brewery.
Yep.
And even though I've got a big, massive fan up on the apex of the building, pulling the air out,
yeah,
it's a massive kind of, it's a broiler when you get in there.
Wow.
So you need to store this beer as well. In the winter, we can just stick it in a corner on a pallet somewhere, and it's fine. It doesn't really get below freezing. Although one year, just on a little tangent, I did come in one morning and all the pipes had burst off the back of my taps because they'd frozen. So they're all John Guest push fittings, that kind of thing. They'd all popped out with like a little icicle. I was like, right,
straight out. Wow.
Yeah, couldn't even make a coffee.
A little beer popsicle cock sticking out the end of each of your pipes. Outstanding.
Yeah, I sucked on it like it was what I got.
I'll bet you did. There's nothing better than a beer popsicle, is there?
Oh, dear.
So, one of the other things, and from a homebrew front, is you tend to look at what other homebrewers are making. Like the in vogue styles are the ones that a lot of people push. So at the moment, it's Philly sour, raspberry sours, Neepers, although a lot of people seem to be moving back to pale ales and lagers at the moment. And those are the styles that will get pushed, I mean, Tricky's got a batch of bacon on.
Yeah, I find sometimes the stuff we talk about on here, and then all of a sudden everyone goes away and brews it, It's quite funny.
Why are people listening to us, for fuck's sake? Why are you listening to me? For fuck's sake, I know nothing. Why are you listening to me?
I think that was it before Christmas we started talking about all the German beers, and then I think me and Owen and that started doing them, and then a whole load of people, obviously.
There's a few Helleses floating around in the beer mails, isn't there?
Yeah. I think that was the one I did on the. I think it was the recipe I'd put out.
Yeah.
And John had brewed it and stuff like that, John Pollock and that. So no, it's really cool.
Yeah, you do see these little trends, don't you? It's sort of like at one point everyone was doing the black IPAs and things like that. Now they're sort of not quite as popular anymore. You still see them around a bit. But yeah, it's interesting. You sort of have that inspiration from commercial breweries maybe to an extent, and then it seems to catch a little bit of everyone jumps on the bandwagon on the sort of home brewing scene as well. Brew IPAs as well. Does anyone remember them?
They lasted 6 weeks, mate. They lasted 6 weeks and they're done. Right?
Did you ever do one of those, Harry?
No, I've not actually. No. But it'll come back round again. I was just going to say, like, all these beer styles are relatively cyclical. Like, you don't have to look too far back to see that every 4 or 5 years there's going to be a massive move to big hoppy beers again, and then it'll die down, and then they'll be doing the double IPAs again, and then it'll die down, or it'll be the stouts or milds coming back into the spotlight again at the minute. So, but they'll come round. It's like skinny jeans.
All my jeans are skinny. Even
is that because
fit, they're still skinny?
You're more of a flares man, aren't you, Chris?
I'm more of a shorts man, or if I can get away with it, just walking around in my skivvies. Like right now.
Skirt.
Oh, mate, there is nothing better than it's so liberating as a man to wear a skirt. I'm telling you, that draft up around your bollocks is a fucking wonderful thing.
Mate, you should be Scottish.
I've got nothing on below the waist now.
There's nothing better than that.
Once the family are out, why not?
I say I've got nothing on. Something's raging.
Oh,
Oh
dear.
dear.
Turn Pornhub off, okay? That window that you've got open, right? Pornhub Premium, get it off.
Got me.
It's just a wonderful thing, okay? You look at what other people are making, like Harry said in the chat when we had it on Wednesday. You look at what other breweries are doing, okay? And to a certain extent, that's what home brewers do. This brewery's producing a mango milkshake IPA. I'm going to make one of those because I can do it cheaper and I don't have to pay them for it. And that's why people go down those lines. We get inspiration from many, many, many places. I had inspiration, believe it or not, from Tricky once. I saw the shine off of his forehead and I decided that what I needed was a really crystal clear Pilsner. That's how it goes. You take inspiration from the tiniest little places.
There's anyone watching this live.
You don't look in the mirror.
The freshly shaved baby who's sat in the corner here, like
I'm sure it was just
taking the piss out of my lack of hair.
No, mate, there was actual hair there, so it weren't a mirror. Bald as a coot and proud of it. You've got all these different things, and you've got all these different styles, and all these different inspirational points that you can take it from. And there is absolutely no point in limiting yourself. Okay, develop those recipes. Everybody will go down the route. Oh, that was all right, but I'm producing this week. So next time I brew, I'm going to do that again, but I'm going to change X, Y, or Z. I blame Owen for the mango milkshake Weissen beer that I'm going to Weiss beer that I'm going to produce. Okay, so it's going to be a mango Lassi wheat beer. All right, this is Owen's fault. Now him and his wonderful hair and his so sexy voice. He's got a lot to answer for. He really does, because I've had to basically redesign a recipe in order to put some lactose in it to be able to see whether or not it makes any difference. This is all inspiration. It all comes from many places, and this is where we really push back the foreskin of brewing science. That's what it is.
You're just desperate to get that line in, weren't you?
I was. Did you see me work that round?
Yeah.
Get that line in.
Anyway, moving swiftly on from retracting foreskins. One thing we didn't mention there actually is brewing books. So, I mean, I'm actually looking at in the corner of my office at the minute at all the brewing books that I haven't opened for months. But yeah, that's one that gets.
We've all come prepared.
I love it.
So, yeah, I mean,
have you no, hang on. Before we move on, all of us have got the random shit book. He's got one that's brewing awesome beer.
He's got the proper one for like developing recipes.
Yeah, actually, I bought that one off the back when Harry put it in one of his videos. Yeah,
I've got quite a lot of the brewing books. I've got the water one by the, they do. Hops,
yeah.
It's a very dry read.
It is. Yeah.
Was it as boring as our podcast on water?
I don't know if I've seen that one yet.
Episode 5, listen to it at your peril.
I've been catching up on quite a few of them actually, because they're not all on the YouTube channel, are they?
No,
you go across to the website, which you can plug it now, I guess. Can't
so, how much do you use? How much do you use the books, Harry, when you're developing your recipes? Do you go into them for specific things that you want to find out? Or?
No, not too much. I generally tend to just use them as kind of, reading with a coffee or a beer or whatever. And because I think I tend to, if I'm using a book as a reference on the day, I get a little bit of anxiety around it all if I can't find the info that I need. And it just kind of interrupts the flow of kind of getting into the kind of beer that you want to make. And, it stems your creative juices a little bit. So I think it's nice to have them there as a reference if you need them. But generally, I've not got a book open in front of me when I'm designing a recipe. Usually, I'll be on the internet and I'll be having a look at other breweries. I'll be having a look at other brewers. And even just browsing images of beers is sometimes enough to put that spark there. And, like the packaged beers from other breweries. I don't mean just like pint glasses and stuff. I mean, like beers in cans.
I think you get to a point with brewing, don't you, where you sort of like learn to put down the recipe book and not cling to that quite so much and start to, go off on your own own way with things. I mean, you know, sort of books like the Bible or whatever, which everyone sort of tends to refer to when they're first starting out, are brilliant.
That's a good overall. That does a lot of different styles, and it's a good
exactly.
That's
a great one for inspiration for recipes because it does cover so many styles. So even if you are kind of adapting them and doing your own thing, it gives you that sort of initial, ideas and starting points and stuff. But nowadays, I mean, I might sort of go in occasionally to the books and just have a little browse to look at stuff, but I don't tend to maybe stick to the recipes as they're written, maybe with the exception of what we've been doing for the live brew days for these ones, because it's kind of interesting when everyone does, or some of the people stick to the recipe, so you can then share them between you and compare them and stuff later on.
I've never fucking brewed the recipe on a day ever.
Sure.
No.
I sometimes do it, and then sometimes I'll modify it as well, because I'm like, nah, that'll suck. And then
to be fair, I've changed pretty much all of them. I say that.
But then see, when you do brew it to the actual recipe, they're amazing. So
well, that's a good point, actually. You know, on a brew day, when you've drawn your recipe out and printed it off Brewer's Friend or Beersmith or whatever you're using, do you stick to it religiously? Because what I tend to, when I'm brewing in the brewery, what I've got in front of me, I won't move off of that, because the next time round, I need to know what went wrong or what went right, you know, and to look back at it. And if I've changed something on the fly and I've forgotten to record it, then it's going to be a problem if I want to repeat it and it turns out to be my greatest success and I've forgotten what I put in randomly.
Yeah,
I'll be honest with you, Harry. As a scientist, I record everything. Everything gets written down. And if I don't write it down, there's a note section on Brewfather that I use to just type it in. I absolutely have to, and I can't change more than one parameter at a time. That's just been drilled into me by years of doing analytical chemistry. If you change more than one thing, you're doing it fucking wrong.
Yeah, so you don't know what's had the effect then, do you? What's
exactly right. You know, brewing is cooking, is chemistry, is science, and that's the bottom line.
As a homebrew, that was that's probably one of the things, you know, that you would say actually makes you a better brewer overall is just recording. Because I remember when I started out and I was like, I'll just take the starting and the finishing gravity, or I'll just record the ABV sort of thing. Nothing else was really recorded. It was all in, was it Beersmith at the time? But you did sometimes change things, or you didn't record what went wrong, or what your pre-boil gravities and stuff like that was. So you never really kind of nailed down your kit. And then as you start to record and keep all your recipes that I've done, then that's where I see you get better and better.
My least favourite part of recording things at the minute, though, has got to be the pH. So I record the pH of the water coming into the brewery, record the pH of the water as I add my water additions, record the pH of the mash, record the pH of the boil, record the pH as it goes into the fermenter, and then record the pH when it's done.
Wow.
And always the fucking meter is like, I've got 2 meters and I've invested in a slightly more expensive one now because I was just using the cheapo ones.
The Chinese one.
And and they're good enough for like, you know, a rough reading. But if you want to know the difference between like 5.24 and 5.19, which is all the difference might be when it's going into the boil kettle and coming out of the boil kettle, not being able to trust your instruments is quite an upsetting thing to have on the day. It's like, there's no point in me recording any of this data now because I can't trust my apparatus to measure it properly.
I've been telling these motherfuckers for years, man. If you ain't spending 250 quid on a pH meter, you ain't fucking trying.
Yeah, but if they're dry, they die, even if they're 250 quid. That's the trouble with them. It does not
cost much to make some 3 molar KCl. It really doesn't.
Yeah, and just store it into some solution. Yeah. Well, I tend to just put, in a pinch, I'll put my pH 4 buffer solution into the cap and just stick it in there.
pH 4 grows too quick, man. You'd be better off your 5.5.
Don't have any 5.5. 4 and 7 and 9.
I'll send you a recipe.
Okay, doke.
Got you covered. Weirdly enough, actually, it's funny we should talk about this. On Friday, I was bored in the afternoon at work, so I had nothing to do. So I made some 3 molar KCl with distilled water, analytical grade reagents, made in a nitrogen-rich atmosphere, just because I could. So I've got half a litre of like literally cap juice, as we call it. I've got half a litre of it sitting in the fridge behind me.
Just send me the cap juice, dude.
I got you covered, mate. I'll sort you out.
Otherwise, I'm going to have to build something that can maintain a nitrogen-rich environment with like holes to put gloves in. Another project for the workshop.
You do
I'll
that
give
as
you
well.
something to do.
I can see it coming now on the vlog.
Cap
This
juice
week's
maker.
project.
Cap juice project.
It's all it comes down to. You've got to make sure that if you're controlling your variables, you control your variables absolutely. That's all it comes down to.
Yeah.
So I think it's a wonderful thing that I've got somebody here who's just as anal about chemistry as I am. So let's talk about seasonal variation, shall we? Because this was something that I know the BJCP when to brew it calendar guidelines are big on, and I'm not. So I'm just going to stay stum through this entire bit and say nothing. And I'm going to leave it to Andy to do the talking about this bit, because otherwise I may end up just going off on one. Turn the camera, Andy. Turn the camera. Show the people on YouTube.
Is it over here?
There you go. Sad
is.
fucker's got it shit written on his fucking wall.
That was just basically to wind you up. You know that? I
Yeah,
don't
but
actually have a
use
look
it.
at it.
You use it. You do. Don't lie.
It's just because he likes to see you start twitching every time you see
You've got
the
a
post
triumph
on
and a beard. Of course you'll look at it.
Oh, brittle. Yeah, so no, there is things where you've got your fest beers is probably one where you'd want to brew that to style because everyone wants to have Oktoberfest, or you might want to do a dry Irish stout because it's Paddy's Day and have that in stock. So these are the sort of maybe big things where you want to start thinking about what you want to brew beforehand. Try to think other ones, having your impy stouts for Christmas, maybe. So people can take that home, because I know quite a few of us like to have something like that that's quite thick. But that sometimes you have to brew that. I know a lot of us as home brewers will brew that maybe about now, if not a wee bit earlier, to leave to mature over the period until Christmas time. So, yeah.
One of my pet hates for commercial breweries around us is they rebadge their beers for certain events, like the rugby comes on. So they'll send, it's the same beer. You've drank it, time and time again. And they just send you a new pump clip, and it's in the shape of a rugby ball or something like that. And it's called Scrum Off. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, it's like just one of them things that kind of rubs me up the wrong way,
But then is that because it puts their beer in front? So you've got people there to watch the rugby, and they'll be like, "Oh, I want that scrum half," because they're supporting my hobby, my sport sort of thing.
But I think what gets
me,
me,
brains.
It does, mate. Yeah, but it's an opportunity for them there. They could have developed a new beer. I think it's just like kind of. Well, maybe they're not lazy brewers. Maybe they are brewing at capacity, and it's just another way to get that particular beer out the door. Maybe their brew plan might not be like mine and it'd be quite as variable. Maybe they just say, well, this year we're going to brew like 5 million pints of this particular pale, and that's that. And we've got all the stock to do it, but we don't have any ingredients in to do anything else. So they just stick to that style.
Maybe the contract, when you get to that size, it has to be contract.
Yeah, well, I suppose some of them do, but I mean, a lot of them could do it in house. Yeah, we've got a local one near us called Milestone Brewery. It's on the A1 as you're going towards Newark, and they brew good beers, but not exciting ones, I'd say. And they kind of, they're one of the breweries that tends to do this jumping on the bandwagon kind of thing, which I think is a little bit different to obviously brewing 2 season. Which I can understand.
Aaron Brewery up here did that with one of theirs, their ales, and then they ended up calling it the Rabbi Burns. It was like the Rabbi's Ale or something like that. And then it ended up being like one of their top, after the Aaron Blonde, I think it ended up being one of their top sellers because of the name change of putting that kind of association with Burns on it.
Yeah, it's just another way to, I suppose, market your beer and get move more of it, I suppose.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things. It's like a bit of a tangent.
Maybe that's why we were talking earlier about the naming is quite important, actually. Because it is all about the presentation. It's not about the actual beer itself. It's about how you get that into people's hands.
Yeah, your pump clip or your can label or the name of the beer, it's your shop window, isn't it? And it's the first thing that people see when they come into a bar. And if they're greeted in a bar or a bottle shop by a multitude of different beer styles and whatnot, you know, it's a battle then to make yours stand out the most. And if it's something that's relevant to the day, like the rugby being on or the football now, I suppose you might just have that subconscious kind of click and go, oh, football's on, I'll get one of them. And it just brings you to the front of the queue.
This is true. This is true. And this is something that we see. And there's there's a lot of people around the big festivals, the big beer festivals, the Oktoberfest, the summer beers, you know, Easter, that kind of thing, where a lot of people will simply pump out a certain style or, you know, as is quite often done within the commercial world, rename one of their current beers to be something which is relevant to the actual event that's going off. By the way, Harry, I don't think anyone's actually said anything about your Brazil top that you're wearing. I have to say, I really like that top and I'd like one. Do you have any in extra fat?
I'm doing a few runs actually next week. So if
it doesn't have 3 X's in it, mate, it's no good to me.
I'll do you one.
That's all I'm saying. Can you have Fat Lad put on the back? Cheers.
I can.
But it's one of them things, like especially around about Oktoberfest, you'll find that somebody will throw a couple of handfuls of black patent malt into their lager recipe and call it an Oktoberfest, right? And as somebody who truly loves the Märzen, right, there is a lot of people who do that shit, and there's nothing that winds me up more. However, bullshit baffles brains. Joe Bloggs, who normally drinks Foster's, will go, oh, it's Oktoberfest, I'll have 12 pints of this instead. And all of a sudden, they've got a beer that sells a shitload. Home brewers, what we do is we fucking make the right thing. We develop the recipe. We go off somebody else. I mean, a lot of people have tapped me up for my Marzen recipe.
Speak to Chris.
Yeah. A lot of people have tapped me up for that. And all of a sudden, they're churning this recipe out. And before you know it, you've got 40 people. Well, maybe not 40. That's me blowing my own trumpet. If I had those four ribs, if I had those four, no, mate, if I had those 4 ribs and both vertebrae removed, I could probably reach. But there's a lot of people who've tapped me up for this recipe, and there's loads of people making it. And all of a sudden, there's beer males flying around with Märzens. Sorry, I've got to call it right, otherwise Andy twitches. And then all of a sudden, you've got all these recipes flying around, and homebrewers tend to make the right thing. There are certain breweries that do the same. Okay, there are certain commercial breweries that I know of who I can say, it's Halloween, I'm going to have your Halloween beer because it tastes really nice. There are certain breweries where you go, I'm not going to have your Halloween beer because it's shit, because it's the same shit that you pump out year on year. I'm not going to touch that. Hobgoblin, for one of them, fuck off, your beer's shit, I don't want to drink it. But that's the point. There's a lot of people who like it, there's a lot of people who don't. And I think Tricky really needs to make my Märzen.
Is he not?
I have not made it yet, I must admit. Yeah.
Oh,
sorry.
wow.
I'll get on that.
He's my closest friend. He's my closest friend in the brewing world. We talk.
It was one of the.
lot.
It was. See, when I did that,
made it.
when I did the German Lager series, it was one of the best. Like that and the Helles were pretty much really good. The Märzen was like awesome, and when it goes quick, you know it's good as well.
I mean, I think homebrewers just have a little bit more freedom to sort of bother with the authenticity of beers as well, don't they?
That's true.
We can buy those specific ingredients in smaller quantities quite easily, and we can, search out the things, the specific yeasts and all the other stuff that will allow you to sort of, like I say, make it a little bit more authentic and true to the origin of that particular beer or recipe that you're hoping to create.
How many times have we banged on about 1469, Tricky?
I think it's been mentioned a couple of times on the pod in the past, yeah.
Per episode, yeah. It's one of those things. If you want to brew a true bitter, you've either got to go Nottingham or you've got to go 1469. That's the bottom line.
Well, there's other options as well.
No,
but-
that's other. It's one and all that. Come on. There is others. Yeah.
It is something that kind of limits me as a commercial brewer, though, not being able to carry 27 different types of yeast and 500 malts. You know, I wish I could. When I was home brewing, it would be easy enough to just go and get that 1 kilogram bag of honey malt or whatever and just keep it at the side for whenever you decide to use it.
Yep.
But on a commercial scale, it comes back to that issue of space, and you just simply can't store all that stuff. And then you've got to use it if you buy it. So, you know, it's sat there and you think, I've got to get through this malt, otherwise it's going to go off. So
Does that
it's
tend to prevent you venturing into the sort of different liquid yeast and stuff a lot as well, because of must be a massive pain in the arse having to deal with those at a pitching rate that you would be needing.
Yeah, so I've done, as you might have seen in the past, a few of them. Did some over Christmas, and I've got to grow them up to like 25 litre starters, and doing it with 5 litre stir plates and just, 5 litre Erlenmeyer flasks. And then I put, what's it called? Like one of those plastic no chill cubes, if you like, on the stir plate. I'm trying to get that going. It's not working through the plastics. I'm like, it's a ball ache that you just don't need.
Yeah, you just
and you can. Yeah, the bag is easy, and you don't need to worry about oxygenating your wort either when you're going with a dry yeast. But the liquid yeast you do, otherwise you're going to stress it a little bit. So, and you can buy pitch rates from the suppliers, and they'll send you the correct volume.
How much
and
is
cell
that?
count. Hundreds.
Ain't
It is
cheap,
hundreds
bro.
of pounds. You can have a look on WHC Labs. They've got a drop-down box, so you can get all their liquid yeasts in like enough for 5 barrels, 10 barrels, whatever, and you can see bump, bump, bump. It goes up like adding a zero every time on the end of it. So it's too expensive for me to play with. I'd much rather buy a smack pack or something like that and grow it up.
Yep.
But it's time, isn't it? Even though it's not a lot of time for you to do it, it's only 5 minutes to set it, sanitize everything and set it up. You're still waiting a week or two before you can get that brew on the go because you're waiting for your yeast.
You got all those extra stages where there's potential for infection as well, I guess. And
Absolutely,
as well,
yeah.
So.
Just a question for you, though, Harry. You know when you did your beer with Voss, did you use anything more than a single pack from WHC, one of the standard homebrewer packs?
No, I've got a 500. I've got the Voss, I've got a 500 block.
Oh, use dried yeast. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I've got a 500 gram block of that. But I used the Hornendal at Christmas. I grew that one up from a wet yeast from WHC. Is it WHC? WCH?
WHC.
Right.
I'm glad they've come on the market actually, because they do some really interesting options that you couldn't really get commercially, in 500 gram packets, which are basically what I buy in. They're really easy. I saw you with one, I think, Andy, when you had.
I got the Sanders, half a brick.
Still
I got the
chipping
brick.
away at that, aren't you?
Yeah, of course. But do you know what I did? I split it with my mate Raymond, so we had 250 each. There you go, it's another brick. But I quite like using the bricks yeast because you can repackage it, and then it's like the next year's brewing is sorted for my dry. And then if you've got, I can have so now I've got the Sanders. I did have a block of US05, which was brilliant. Like I just changed my mind about harvesting and all that, but I can just put it on and then go.
Yeah.
So
I found a supplier for 10 kilo blocks of US05. So that really has kind of put the harvesting and repitching out the window for me, because it's no longer cost effective for me to risk losing a batch through any infection while I'm harvesting yeast from a prior batch. So straight away you're pitching safe straight into a new batch of beer, and you don't have to worry if there's an infection in there. You can narrow it down straight away. It's not come from my yeast because I've pitched fresh dry.
Exactly.
It must be something else.
But I quite like, because it's a case that you don't need to worry about growing it up or anything, and it's just a case of just measuring it out and it goes, and that's it away. So the Sanders is a really good one because I think it's Conan effectively, which is, who is it that does it? Is that what was Conan again,
Imperial.
guys?
Yes.
No, the brewery in America.
Yeah.
The one that started it all.
Yeah, they're on the East Coast, aren't they?
Heady Topper one.
Topper. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Was
that's
that the beer or was that the brewery? Were they?
no,
that's
that's
the
a
name of
beer.
the beer.
Yeah.
That's a beer.
So the
It's
Alchemist something.
Alchemist.
That's the one.
Yeah.
So that's what Conan is. So Sanders is that. So like brilliant. That's me sorted for all any of my kind of ones where I want that kind of expression of a little bit, that kind of yeast flavour sort of thing going on, where it's putting a bit more in rather than the super clean USO5. So, and I like to do a lot of those kind of beers, and then effectively anything on the beer engine, then it's stuff then I can start to play with. So at the moment it's the London Ale that I think I got for the 5 points best, and then I can do my thing where I can grow that and do the stir plate and all that sort of thing. But standard beers, just chuck the Sanders or the 05, and that's been pretty much covered for quite a lot of styles.
Just to bring this back to a homebrew front for a moment, this is a wonderful part about home brewing is the actual the fact that you can take the same malt bill, the same hop bill, just change the yeast and just see where it goes. This isn't a luxury that the vast majority of commercial brewers have because of, like Harry's just said, the cost involved with getting a certain amount of a yeast. It's going to cost you, 150, 200 quid just to get the yeast to be able to make a batch of beer. And that's money that's coming off your bottom line. That's money that you're not going into your pocket. And it's an issue. It really is an issue. Whereas us as home brewers, the most you're going to pay for a pack of yeast is probably a tenner.
Well, I'm Scottish.
Well, I know you're tighter than a duck's arse, Andy, but
I'm Scottish, so I buy it by the brick.
You don't even let fucking water in your arse.
Split it with my mates, so it's like 15 quid for half a brick. And that's cheap, 15 quid. That was for that half brick of Sanders.
You're getting old, as Owen said, when you're talking about splitting bricks of yeast instead of bricks of drugs. Okay? So the bottom line is, we can, as home brewers, get whatever we want, whenever we want, off of a multitude of different sources. If you can't get it off one brewery, you can get it off of another. And then, off one manufacturer, you can get it off of another. And therefore, we can produce pretty much whatever we want, whenever we want to. For commercial brewers, it's a little bit different because of the cost involved with it. And because of, as Harry's just said, harvesting yeast, the risk of infection. If we lose a 23-litre batch as a home brewer, who gives a shit? You brew it again, it's cost you maybe 7 quid. If Harry loses a batch, that's a lot more than 7 quid. It's gone down the pan. It's probably cost him 7 quid for his fucking water.
Yeah, it's a day that does me the most. It's a day's brewing that's gone. It's the heartbreak of all that work that you've put into it, and it hasn't turned out. Tip it away. It's not the money. It's the money I can cope with. It's the hope that I can't.
It's the crushing of your soul. Yeah, it's one of them things, I mean, we have to tailor this podcast a little bit towards the homebrewing from first and foremost as the general aim of it. But we have to give a shout out to the commercial boys that are producing the beers that we crack the cans and we sit down and we drink. And the bottom line is there is a lot more risk involved doing what Harry does compared to what we do as homebrewers. 23 litres going down a pan for us is, as I say, 7 quid. Who gives a shit?
Some people like myself are still heartbroken, Chris.
Yeah. I've poured some beers away because I simply didn't like the flavour. I don't think Harry's ever done that.
Oh, I have, yeah. Well, that's what it's all about, really, isn't it? I've had beers come out, I just don't like the flavour of them. So away they go.
It may be a perfectly good beer. I just didn't like the way it tasted. And I vape more than anyone else on earth. So, don't trust my taste buds.
Some of the first ones that we did on the big kit were, I think they were good enough to go out and sell, but they weren't what I was shooting for. So I pulled the plug on them as well. It's just, you've got to have confidence behind your brand, haven't you?
You've either got more money than sense, or, you really do have high standards.
Harry, you didn't hit your numbers, did you? I think that was the problem. Because it was a new kit and you didn't hit the numbers that you were wanting.
I fucked up the IBU contents.
Oh, that's
So
right.
what-
It was really bitter.
Yeah, when I scaled the recipes, I didn't change my hop utilization from obviously homebrew size. So you need like my utilization on Beersmith is like up at about 110, 115%, whereas homebrewing you'll be down at 100 or less for smaller batches. But yeah, when I scaled it up, to 500 litres, that was quite a swing on the old IBU-ometer.
It's a massive
That's the
amount.
thing. Yeah,
It
that's
was
the
125 on a kit I was using.
thing. Scaling up.
15 barrel. It was a big kit. You have to really scale things. You really do. So it's a different thing.
Point. That's a good point though for going between your pilot batches and then your big kit batches. Then.
Yeah, I think so. You do need to keep an eye on that when you're scaling up. That's why I like to do it on the pilot kit now. So
I bet you, Harry. I bet you, if you went from your 500 litre kit to like a 20 hectolitre or what? If you were 2,000 litres, right? Which is 20 hectolitres, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you were going from your kit to that, then you would need to do tweaks, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And a lot of breweries, a lot of breweries struggle when they go from like the kit they're on, like say Beavertown, go and they upscale again, and the beer totally changes.
Mm-hmm. Well, the kit I was brewing on at Idle Valley, that was 2,000 litres, and didn't throw many batches out of that one because it was a big kettle.
Imagine.
But I think I was quite lucky then. This wasn't a mistake in scaling; it was just I neglected to scale. So, you click the button on Beersmith and it zips all your malts and everything up there. But you need to go into your equipment profile to change that up utilization, which you don't do on your scaling. You have to set that profile up properly first, and I just didn't do it properly. So, 2 batches went, I think, at first. And now it's like I can do the vacant basically with my eyes closed, even though I do pull out the refractometer during the day and what have you to make sure I'm on track. So I could be cocky and just sail through it. And I know where I am with it all. You can kind of just get a feel for it. Because I brewed that much of the stuff.
Yep.
And it does tend to lose its shine a little bit, when you've dug the mash tun out for the 600th time. It's not quite as exciting. The first time is, but rubs off a little bit.
That's the thing. It's not all the sexy glamour of recipe development and, like you say, like the commercial, it's hard work, isn't it?
Yeah, you're just a massive cleaner. You just go around cleaning everything all the time. There's no, there's no glory in it. Yeah, I do enjoy it. Don't get me wrong.
Of course you do, because otherwise you would. Yeah.
Yeah, but there are things that I don't enjoy, like cask washing.
Oh, mate, that fucking sucks ass. I hate cask washing. The thing that most people don't understand about being a pro brewer, if you want to use that term, a commercial brewer, is 80% of your time is spent cleaning something. Yeah,
and then 15% of it is waiting for something to heat up or cool down.
5% is brewing. Yeah. That's what it is. I mean, I must have spent fucking hell. What did I work? I worked 4 months before the brewery got shut down because they didn't pay tax. Yes, that was how it happened. I probably spent 75% of my time stood outside underneath a shelter in the rain washing casks.
Yeah.
Oh, and his camera's died.
Yeah. Did the pre-jet wash them then?
Oh yeah, I pre-jet washed everything. We had a steam cleaner, so I pre-steam cleaned everything, and then it went on, caustic, paracetic, blah blah blah, water, blah blah blah. Yeah, that was my life. Yeah, it was pretty boring. But
what's the worst thing you've got out of a cask? Because that's always interesting to hear the horror stories of what people find.
There was a dead rat in one.
Yeah, I've heard of the rat before. I've never had a rat in there.
Yeah, it wasn't a particularly big rat. Yeah, it was.
We've had like these. I don't know what kind of insect it was, but we had all these insect eggs inside one once.
Yeah,
and that was like I had to change all of the water in the caustics when we rinsed it, and it didn't. Obviously, they must have had like some kind of like silk sack around them or something. And then when we put it in, I don't think it was a spider egg, no, but there must have been some kind of biofilm or something on it protecting them. And then when we put it on the cask wash, it just blasted through it, and then all of a sudden, just all these little white kind of almost peanut-shaped eggs came spilling out.
Mate.
Drain it all down. But
Slugs.
butts, slugs.
Yeah, snails.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had
puppy dog's tails.
Dead rat. What else did we have? Oh, we had one that had I don't know it was probably a liquefied mouse, something like that. That was pretty grim. I got that one out with a steam
want to put anything back in it.
How did you know it was a mouse if it was liquefied?
It's a good thing it was
the skeleton that was left.
Right, okay.
No, there was a few casks, and I mean I can say this now because the bloke who owns it fucked me over for a month's wage, but it was not uncommon for me to try cleaning something, being a scientist, looking inside and seeing there's still shit in there. I need to clean that more. It not to clean with the steam cleaner, it not to fucking move in any way, shape, or form, and for me to literally lob the cask over a fence. Because there was no fucking way I was putting any more time and effort into cleaning something that wasn't going to clean.
We have a particular method for what would you call them? Stubborn stains. So we basically fill it up with a really kind of strong concentration of chloroquest or something with some hypochlorite in there.
Oh, mate, yeah. Just bleach everything.
Yeah, leave it overnight. Keep rolling it. Make sure it goes in like piping hot as well, and seal the cask up.
Oh, yeah.
And it usually shifts anything. And then we've got nitricid as well and fos gel to move any nasty beer stone that ends up in there.
Yeah,
dissolve any.
Great. I nicked half a litre of fos gel when I left, basically.
Yeah, it's good. It's like you can paint it on as well because it's got really kind of thick. So when we bought the new brewery tanks, the conicals that we've got, they were just covered in beer stone on the inside.
Oh, they
must have had really mineral water. We just painted this stuff on, and it came off like sunburnt skin, which was weird.
It flakes off, and then if you leave it. No, I'm sorry. Harmon Brewing has just asked, did we find any dead badgers? No, mate. Homebrew UK has the pure trademark on dead badgers in beer.
It's a bit harder for them to get into the cask, isn't it? But, plastic bucket. It's
only a bit
more room to get in.
You'd have to have your foot on the arse of a badger to get it into a cask. But yeah, for Harry, who probably doesn't know about that, basically, if you go on Homebrew UK, there's always a picture of somebody with a dry hop bag that hasn't sunk, that's covered in green mold, that looks like a dead badger.
Floating about.
Yeah,
and everyone's telling them to drink it anyway. Usually,
yeah, just take it from the bottom, mate. It'll be fine.
Siphon from underneath, nothing to worry about.
Don't worry about it. It's fine.
I've drunk worse than that, etc., etc.
Yeah. If it tastes all right, just drink it. Yeah, that's classic. Yeah, but no, we've got all of these things that we've talked about, and the bottom line from a home brewer is the easiest kind of resource that you're going to have for recipe development is always going to be books, Brewfather Library, Beersmith Library. Any kind of library, be that a book library or an internet library of information and recipes that you can use. That is basically what you should be aiming for when it comes to the things that you can use to do what you're going to do. Because books have tried and tested recipes in some occasions.
Yeah.
There are certain books where those recipes have never been fucking brewed. Okay?
Yeah. I've got one. I'm going to call him out. I had a Dave Line book once.
Oh, and I thought you were going to say David E.
No, I used it for propping up my mash tun. That's all it was useful for. To drain it in the bin.
Some of them have got mistakes in them quite a lot. So I know the Brewdog book sometimes has a lot of mistakes. This one that we were all showing, this has got some mistakes in it as well. So that's the other thing you need to watch out for.
Well, that was interesting. Some people can't calculate shit.
the fact the Brewdog published all of their recipes a few years ago, didn't they, with that DIY dog booklet?
Yep.
And it's not really a very good kind of reference tool in terms of recipe development because it doesn't give you enough insight, I don't think, into the technique.
No.
But it certainly gives you a good insight into what grains and what hops they are using in a lot of their beers. It's always nice to have a little sneaky peek at something like that.
Yeah, I think you can always tell with those sort of recipes there's been a bit of a half-assed job done of like downscaling as well. So it kind of works in the other way, doesn't it? Where the downscaling is maybe not really done correctly, and then the numbers and stuff are all over the place when you try and put it into the software and whatever.
Punk ends up too bitter, or you know, the Elvis just doesn't. Oh, it's just some of the stuff, or it goes too strong. I don't know. It's a lot of time it's just not, and I think that even they maybe just do that so that you can actually produce a beer just as good as.
Well, some of the recipes are clearly not, you know, what they're actually doing as well. It's like you look at the sort of Elvis juice and stuff, and they're telling you to do it with grapefruit peeling and stuff. Well, obviously they're not peeling fucking grapefruits up in up at the Brewdog plant, are they?
Big fatty.
They got one guy whose full-time job is just skinning the fucking grapefruits.
He's the YTS.
Massive.
That's what it is. That's the YTS. Your job will be peel grapefruits. Don't get any white shit in them, by the way. That's what it comes down to. You know, we look at books, we clone recipes or allegedly clone recipes, we trial ingredients, and we do all this kind of stuff. But I want to focus on the cloning of recipes, okay? I realize we're an hour and 30 in. Do you guys need the commercial now? And then we'll move on to cloning recipes afterwards. Tricky, how's your beer?
Yeah, I've got nothing. So
Harry's empty as well. Okay, right. We'll move straight on to the commercial. We'll take it a little bit earlier because, to be honest, the conversation on this one's been fucking killer. So we're gonna have to move a little bit faster after the commercial break. I'm just warning my three amigos. Let's get the commercials out. Let's give it a few seconds so Tricky, who's going to edit this podcast, can just put the commercial break music in, which has been missing for the last 10 or 12 episodes. A moment of silence for the music.
Right.
Well, I'm going fridge.
You see how prepared my amigos were, YouTube. I'm sitting here, right? I've got a fridge next to me. Harry's been standing up for the last half hour. I assume because he shit himself. This is
very uncomfortable, squeaky chair.
Oh, is that what you've got? Shit,
I've got square bum.
What, you've got a square ass or a round chair?
Well, it's flat, so now my bum's flat from sitting on it.
This is no bueno. Right, Harry, whilst you're there, I want you to decide. I'm going to hold a beer in my left hand and my right hand. I want you to choose whether or not my commercial break beer is my left hand or my right hand.
Is one of those beers a pint tin from Arbor?
No, unfortunately, I'm out of Arbor beers. I've drunk them all.
Good God.
Let's go right hand.
We're going right. Are you sure?
Yeah, well, I think it looks like it's your strongest hand to me.
I always wank with my left.
So it feels like somebody else is doing it for you.
Absolutely. Okay, right hand it is. Okay, I'm going to need a fresh glass.
Are you going first, Chris, or is...
Am I fuck?
No? Well, Andy seems to be ahead of the game. So.
Andy's already pulled it, drank it. He's halfway through it.
Well, we were talking about dippers earlier. I think Owen was saying that there's got to be a dipper.
Oh, wait,
holding up the fort for Owen.
Boom, boom. So, there we go. We have got an overtone Vic Secret. It's all Vic Secret, 8%. And, yeah, all Vic Secret, funnily enough. The colour. Check out that. Wow. Wowzers. It is opaque. Incredible smell. It's got kind of that. I get a lot of kind of pine Is that normal for Vic Secret?
It can be. It depends on the rate it's been hopped at.
Resiny, do you mean? Or
Pineapple, definite.
oh, pineapple, yeah. Yeah, I think pineapple's a
Pineapple, citrus, and then a little bit actual pine. And it's like obviously super thick on the tongue. Nice sweet, a kind of nice sweetness. There's definitely pine on the finish. Like it's just got this kind of pine. It's very tropical. But yeah, it's excellent. And I'd say it's very there is quite a lot of that's going on in there.
He's
very
making
thick,
your lines tricky.
thick and juicy.
I don't know how we dare.
But yeah, I'm definitely getting a lot of kind of. It's not a lot. It's not like a West Coast pine. I'm just trying to think if we're getting that kind of New Zealand vibes that you get that we've had. But it's not quite that. You know how like Galaxy and Motueka, it's got that kind of spicy soils thing from the New Zealand. It's not. I don't think it's quite like that. It's a lot. This is maybe it's the malts, but this is a lot kind of sweeter, juicy. But then it's got like a kind of more piney thing.
You know, we really need Owen back to review the Dippers because I'm not being funny. I don't even want to play Sexual Healing by Marvin Gaye over the top of this because this is just like this is properly schoolyard describing the beer. This is not Owen. He has much more chocolate, a much more silky.
He'll be like that. There's guapo. Is it guapo?
There's nobody flicking their bean to this. That's what I'm saying.
It's rough and ready. That's what it is, mate.
It's Scottish.
It's the Scottish.
Fuck you, right by sporran.
But yeah, no, it's excellent. Really, really good. But what I'm getting is it's a sweet with a that kind of pine. It's not something I would expect from Vic Secret either. But
wow, are you disappointed by this beer, Andy?
No, God no. It's kind of it's overtone. It's nice and soft, juicy, and then it's got this really nice finish. And I like a nice pine thing, but Vic Secret is kind of it's interesting that it's like that. It's kind of Anyway, I'll shut up. I'll let someone else go.
Who's next then?
Harry!
Go on then. Then. So this one is from Vault City Brewing.
Oh, it's
going to be a good one.
Scotland!
So we're going to go in with the HarryBrews 69 bottle opener, courtesy of Clement's Homebrew a few years ago. And we've got
I am expecting a merch pack.
This is a
tropical sour at 5.2. Hold on, I haven't got the autofocus on there. How's that?
There we go.
That's nice.
Just reading backwards. So it says tropical sour.
No, it's fine on OBS, mate. So it's good on YouTube. You're golden.
Right on.
I remember when they were. I met them when they were cuckoo brewing. So they were brewing. They were in another. Well, I think they were using another brewer's sort of fermenter, and they've got a base. The story, all their sours, it's all the same base, but then they change what they're putting into it. That's what the guy was telling me.
Fucking hell, that's lively.
Yeah, I don't know much about sour beers, but everyone I know who is into them just raves about Vault City like constantly.
Well, I'm a Vault City virgin.
Oh,
so I'm really quite intrigued as to how this is going to go. So tropical sour, they are listed ingredients. Unfortunately, they don't tell us what hops they've used in this, but I wouldn't imagine that's
not much.
No, it wouldn't be at the forefront.
You're gonna get copyrighted again, Chris.
Yeah, you're gonna get cease and desist again, Chris.
I don't care anymore.
Include water, malted barley, guava.
Oh,
That'll set them off on Untapped, honestly.
oh,
Passion fruit, pineapple, wheat,
oh.
oats for Andy, hops and
Yes.
yeast. Coming in at 5.2.
It's the
Is
wheat.
it the
It's the white.
sexy white wheat?
Is it the white wheat? That's what we want to know.
And he's
Well,
only
just
interested
wheat,
in white wheat.
It's and flaked wheat now. That was the latest from Arba.
Oh yeah.
I have to
But
say
yeah.
that really does look like a nice beer. It's got that colour that just says "fucking drink me, you bitch."
It's
what
not
it's got.
very clear, and it's not very cold because I've had it sat here since we started the podcast. So let's have a little sniff there. Well, that is certainly not what I expected. So you get in the fruit. First thing I'm getting through there is definitely the passion fruit and the guava.
I fucking love
And it smells like a juicy fruit kind of thing, going on.
Really, it'll be thick.
I fucking love guava.
It smells like a nice wine. It's giving me. It's not a winey, but when you get like a wine that's expressing notes of kind of tropical fruits, it's definitely throwing them off.
Say the word, Tricky. Say the word, Tricky.
Which word?
Terroir.
Terroir.
So say terroir to the tropical sour. Let's have a go. That's fruit juice. That is just 100% fruit juice. That
is it really thick?
It's got the mouthfeel of probably of like a pineapple juice. Yeah. It's got a great body on it. Really has. It's got the sourness, which kind of is a little bit like a citrusy sourness. But that fruit, it's just an absolute fruit bomb. This is, you're going to have to try it. This is just like fruit juice, like fruit juice. Like you can get a beer and you say, oh, it's a juicy Nipa or whatever, or juicy sour. I think because it's a sour beer, it is turning it into basically a clone. If you wanted to clone pineapple juice, if there is such a thing, I think that's what they've managed to do.
Do they list the hops on the can?
No, they don't. They don't list any hops. Just the fruit ingredients and the malts. So, yeah, they've got guava listed there first. I don't know if they've done this in order of appearance or quantity.
Oh, they're in Portobello in Edinburgh. That's where they are.
Fantastic. Yeah, I'll definitely be going back in for another one of them. I bet you that's scoring highly on all beer rating platforms. It's a wonderful beer. Available in Tesco's.
Is that where you got it?
No, that's the Tesco one.
Holy shit!
Holy shit, yeah. Vault City in Tesco? Amazing.
Right.
Fuck.
Harry, can you just write, the group chat that we've got at the moment? Could you just write the name of the beer and the brewery and everything? So tomorrow when I sober up, I can actually drive to Tesco's and see if they've got any.
Yeah.
It does involve going to Dewsbury, but I'm going to risk it.
I wonder if they're contract brewing that. Do you think they're contract brewing it, or do you think?
I thought so.
I wonder if, because I wonder if their kit's big enough in Portobello to do a Tesco, or if they've got someone like Brewdog or somebody contract brewing it for them.
Brewed and bottled. A1 Industrial Park, Portobello, Edinburgh, EH15.
So they brewed it in-house. Yeah, it is in-house. Yep. Oh, wow.
I'm going to Tesco's tomorrow. I think
it's fantastic.
Okay. Luke on the chat says that that's great. Most of the others are even better. So the one that they've done for Tesco's is that, I guess they've sort of had to do a slightly more approachable sour, maybe for that. I don't know, but
I think the one I had was like a chili strawberry sour beer, and it was insane.
Wow!
They had a raspberry. They had a raspberry one on the shelf, but because it's a bit of a, there's a running theme on raspberry beers at the minute. I didn't think I'd get one of them. Kind of wish I grabbed it now, just for posterity.
Yeah. Cool.
It's not far from you at Tesco.
Me?
No, it's not far.
No, I went to Mansfield today to that Indian food store, you see.
Ah, right.
Monsoon Foods.
Yeah.
So I nipped in while I was there.
Nice.
Don't fault you, mate.
Good
Spent
choice.
50 odd
Fault
quid on
you at all.
spices. But I'm happy with that one. So,
Yeah.
thumbs up from me.
Cool.
Okay, tricky
right,
rock, paper,
I'll
scissors.
do my beer then.
Fine. You go then.
No, I'll just do mine. Thing is, it's going to be gone shortly. So.
Oh, okay. I've literally not fucking drank mine. Look, I've not touched mine.
All right, I'll be quick. Don't worry.
You
So
never
I've got
quick,
beer that I have had quite a few times before, to be honest, but I kind of specifically picked this one for today because I feel like this is a beer that the recipe has been sort of highly developed and
That looks like a
honed
Daya
and zeroed in. It is. So it's Daya's Steady Rolling Man, which is their, I guess you could call it their kind of core pale ale because it's a beer that they do pretty much they've done for a long time and they do keep coming back to, which as one of those breweries that tends to have, virtually, sort of new beers all the time. It's the closest I guess they have to a core beer on there, or their main core beer anyway. But the point is, it's probably one of the best sort of UK American pale ale type beers that I think there is out there, and it's just beautiful aroma. I think there's the recipe for this is kept very sort of under wraps because I've been looking for quite a while for some clues for sort of homebrew clone recipes of this, and there doesn't seem to be anything out there at all. But I'm pretty sure there's a lot of mosaic in it, and probably some other hops as well. But the aroma's phenomenal. It's really nice, and flavor is pretty much equally good. So lots of there's kind of sweetness to it, really nicely balanced with bitterness on the end. A nice kind of citrusy, sort of sweet breakfast juice kind of flavor profile to it, but with a little bit of that sort of mosaic mango thing going on as well. And I just thought I'd drink this one because I think this is probably what I see as like, a beer that the recipe has been refined and developed and has reached a sort of a point where I'm not sure what they could do to really make that much better, to be honest. And I think with a lot of breweries like Dare, I think we've kind of talked about this before on the pod, but it would be nice if there were more beers like this where they just kind of stuck to the thing that works and didn't necessarily feel the need to change, what they're brewing sort of every 48 hours or whatever.
What you don't like Tuesday's bastard stepchild of Monday?
Sometimes, yeah, but equally, it's like if they, when breweries come out with a really great beer, it seems a shame that they're instantly brewing the next thing straight away afterwards. So
they are fantastic, though. Daya, I love a lot of their stuff. Everything I've had from them, I thought was top notch.
They are quality. But yeah, if you've not tried this beer before, then Steady Rolling Man is a quality beer.
That's
all right, Chris, go on then.
Okay, so for those of you who are watching the chat carefully, you would have seen the Siren label come up. So this is Surface Waves, which is a California Pale, a 5.1% Simcoe, Centennial, and Equinaut. Punchy grapefruit, tropical fruit notes in abundant, and a vibrant piney finish with a resinous.
Hold
bitterness.
on, did you say Simcoe?
It's got Simcoe in it. It has Simcoe in it. Now here's the thing, okay? Recently, due to unprecedented abuse from my fellow podcast members, I have been training my palate to truly appreciate Simcoe. It's like most things, okay? Kids don't like Brussels sprouts because Brussels sprouts are bitter.
Pure batter.
Okay, they won't eat them. But if you feed a child Brussels sprouts often enough and that's all they get and they're going to die if they don't eat it, then pretty soon they develop a love for it, okay? I can't understand this whole 3 times shit because I've tried olives more than once and fuck that shit, all right? But this is fucking spectacular, okay? On the palate immediately, there's a little bit of hop burn. So Siren, back it off a bit. then you get tropical fruit, pineapple. You've got you've got a little bit of kind of pine that rolls in at that point, but you've got the tropical fruit, you've got the pineapple, and then you've just got this really kind of tart grapefruit zest kind of thing. And then it just levels out into what can only be described as a walk through the forest, okay? With this wonderful piney thing that when you breathe out through your nose, it comes straight out and you've got this pine, it's right there. The bitterness is very, very resinous. It's for want of a better term, and I hate to use this word, but it is quite dank. But this is one of those beers that if you're hankering for an old school IPA, if you want something that's very 1990s and still angry at its parents, this is the beer for you. The color of it's spot on. There's a caramel sweetness that kind of sits on the back of your tongue that balances out that piney resinous quite nicely. But the overriding sort of flavor, the overriding aroma is grapefruit and pineapple.
Oh,
and
I wonder if the pineapple's from the Equinox.
It's a really, really nice beer.
I've got an Equinox, Chris. I've got an Equinox in the fridge. In the fermenter.
Oh, I know you have, mate.
When you when you smell that thing, it's pineapple.
Yeah, it's an E-bomb, isn't it?
Oh.
But this is much more complicated. This is that girl that you take out on a date and she wants a pizza, but then she wants a pint of Guinness afterwards. And when you get home,
but the quality ones.
Do you know what I mean? She's the one who's going to demand KFC after the third round of sex. All right. This is a complicated beer. This is not the kind of girl who's going to turn around to you and say, put it in whatever hole you want. This is a refined girl.
She's just had a pizza and she's got a belly full of piss.
She wants carbonara and she's not satisfied with grana padano. Okay, she wants proper parmesan. This is a complicated girl. This is a really, really, really nice beer. This isn't the kind of beer that you're just going to smash 4 or 5 cans down of. This beer is going to grab you. It's going to hold you and it's going to tell you, tie me up to the bed and then fuck me however you want. But at the same time, treat me like a lady. That's what it's going to say. All right? And if that isn't a complicated enough beer review for you, then clearly you've not been listening to the Hop Edition enough.
I feel like we really need Owen for the counterpoint to that sort of savagery when it comes to beer review.
This is a really nice beer. But she's going to ask you to smack her ass. That's all. So
where did you get that beer from, Chris? Again, is that
Morrison's? It was a Morrison's beer. Now, weirdly enough, if Harry had chosen the other hand, we would have had a sour. But we'll save that.
All right then. So we're all done. Commercial break.
It's fucking nice, this beer. And I'm not a West Coast.
Sorry, who makes that
Siren.
one? Siren. Is that not Owen's brewery?
It's a Siren Surface Waves California Pale, so it's a true West Coaster. And this is a beer that I will be having at least 4 cans in my beer fridge from now on. It's very, very nice.
Very good.
Mm. But we do need Owen for a bit of soft, sensual, velvet sheet kind of sex. Yeah. I'm more, pulling the hair whilst you're banging them from behind. Anyway,
Mr. Prince is calling you out for not doing your bit for anti-sexism in the beer industry, by the way, Chris.
That's not being sexist at all. He's
part of the problem.
I'm part of the problem. Oh my God. I am concerned now. Right then.
It was good. It was good to see that hit mainstream actual news, to be honest.
It was
sexism. I was actually, yeah.
Let's just leave that one be because I think that's a topic for another podcast. I agree. So, Tricky, lead us in. You've done fuck all but sit there and look smug. Let's go.
Where are we? We're talking about repetition now, are we?
It's Saturday.
Yeah. Oh, Saturday. Yeah.
Let's quickly.
We're on the pod.
let's quickly cover pilot batches, because this is something that I know in the commercial world and the homebrew world differ slightly. So in the commercial world, a pilot batch may be what? What do you brew when you're doing a pilot, Harry?
Currently 50, 55 litres, depending on how brave I am with these new all-rounders that I've got in, whether they're going to blow the top or not. So I did one the other day, which was I put the verdant yeast in there.
Oh, I knew that was coming.
I ended up with 57 litres in this all-rounder. So I immediately gone for a blow-off tube in there, not risking it with the blow tie things.
Yeah,
With verdant yeast, you should have left 20 litres of headspace, mate.
Yeah, I know. I think I'm going to get into the brewery tomorrow and I'm going to have 20 litres of bloody beer in the bucket. You know,
it's going to have taken over your brewery.
It is a live one. It is a live one.
Yeah, I
It'll
remember
have
that.
developed its own language, mate.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess the point is, like, homebrew, we're kind of doing pilot batches all the time anyway, aren't we? It's not really, I mean, do you know, or do any of you actually scale down for a pilot batch at all for homebrew?
I thought about it once.
I did 10.
I did it once. I went back to doing 1 gallon batches and then I went, sack this. There's no point.
That's exactly the same. I think a little, like, probably the last time I did it was when I was just mucking around with doing the like super speedy brew days, and that was part of the reason for scaling down, was so that I could, you know, sort of get it up to the boil and cooled a lot quicker when you're doing a 1 gallon batch.
Yeah, kind of, but it still takes a shed load of time.
The amount of time that you're spending on it, it's like, is that really worth it for, you know, 8 bottles of beer or whatever? It's just doesn't really seem to be any point to piloting at the homebrew scale, because it's like I said, it's basically a pilot batch every time anyway, isn't it? You're only going to be filling up a keg at the most.
Yeah, I wish I could go straight into a 500 litre batch every time, but it's just those failures, isn't it? You know, something doesn't work. It's not worth the risk. But it takes the same amount of time, regardless of the size.
Do you find it a pain sort of doing it at the smaller quantities, or do you kind of enjoy being able to do, I guess, more things?
I do like
piloting them.
It feels a little bit more personal when you're doing it on the pilot kit. You know, it feels like the early days when I started brewing. But also, I suppose I do it on both the big kit and the small kit. I tend to disappear and do other jobs while I'm waiting for stuff to be done. You know, when I'm waiting for the boil to come up, or waiting for the sparge to finish, because generally I'm sparging at around 40 minutes to an hour and 20, depending on what beer it is, you know, to bump the efficiency and whatnot on there. So every time I've got the mash to wait for, I've got the sparge to wait for, I've got the boil to wait for, and then I've got usually a 30-minute whirlpool, which I'll do on pretty much every beer these days, even a stout, just to kind of help drop that trub a little bit. The whirlpool for the hoppy beers, for instance, I'll run probably at about 80 degrees. Whereas if I was going to whirlpool a stout, I'd keep the chiller on for like a full 15 minutes. Maybe it'd bring it down to, 40 degrees or something like that. And then I'd let it stand for another 15 minutes and then transfer, just to get some of the proteins out. But there's all this time where I'm stood waiting for the next trigger point in the process. So I'll go and pick up something else and, fix a bloody tap in the kitchen or whatever it is. But I wish I could go straight to 500 litres on everything, because then if I was confident enough with every single recipe, boom, 500 litres, it's brewed. There's enough for everybody to try. Something I'm noticing with these smaller batches is, this raspberry's good. I don't think there's going to be any left for anybody to buy. Because you only managed to get like 100 cans of it. I'm getting there. It's not going to last long at all. I'm slapping my hands every time I go near it. Stop, because I know it's going to go.
Here's a question then. So is that then a successful future brew on the big kit then?
That one is, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
good.
That's going up.
That's a successful pilot brew then.
Yeah, that's why it makes it worth having, I think, doesn't it?
And
I remember
off it, mate. That's a good one.
Because Harry, you were talking about selling the you were talking about selling the whole pilot kit at one point.
Now, the arrangement that I had in the brewery before, where the pilot kit was tucked away at the back, where now the conicals are, it was very awkward to pull it out and use it, put it away, and then tend to the beers. And I'd not settled on the correct type of fermentation vessel for the pilot kit.
No, because you were using the buckets, weren't you?
Yeah, and I couldn't honestly justify going down the route of a 60, 80 litre uni tank, something like that. It's too much money.
Yeah.
So these all-rounders just drop in nicely, just see them as a consumable, use them for a couple of years and get some new ones.
Yeah,
Chris will,
I think the boys will agree with you on that one.
So
definitely.
the pilot kit is going to be out a lot more, simply because I think I'm happy with the setup, and now I've got the brewery to where I want it to be in terms of equipment and everything else in place. I want to spend a little bit more time focusing on new beers and recipes, and bringing a little bit when COVID's lifted and we've got some people who can come in and stand at the bar and browse the board and have a look what beer we've got on, instead of having to just, because we're printing menus at the minute and they're just taking pieces of paper to the table.
Yeah,
don't have the same effect in the pub. But when they can all come back in, I want to be able to offer them a whole wall full of exciting craft beers that they can have a go at.
That's really cool.
All I'll say to you is this, Harry. I get summers off. If you need a hand, give me a shout.
I will. Get yourself down.
Hey, I heard that there.
More than happy to.
That's
put
on
down
record
in the summer,
now.
mate.
That's on record. It's on YouTube.
You can pay me in food, not in beer. I've got
That's even better. And I know you're already experienced at cask washing, so win-win.
I never experienced the eating, which is your
got a great little job for you, Chris.
Yeah,
I think I've got leprosy on that day.
He might try and come give you a hand with a lager, I think.
Yeah, I'll come help you out with a lager, mate.
Pseudo lager. I missed it the bit before.
Don't let him put quirk in it.
Oh, look at this. Fucking Stewie Prince. The Welsh bastard jumps on immediately. Oh, do you like Mars Ends? Because he's good at that. Yeah, fuck off, Stu. Yeah. Try turning your fucking brew tools on, you wanker. So, boom!
I love you anyway.
Yeah,
Sorry.
get it in there. So, where were we at? So we've done pilot batches, scaling up, stuff like that. So the other important thing, and this applies to both the homebrew world and to the commercial world, is you have to try similar commercial beers to what it is that you want to brew. Okay? Now, for the commercial world compared to the homebrew world, what you're looking for is slightly different. With the homebrew world, you're looking at more the colour, the flavour. Do you like it? Do you not like it? With the commercial world, if you're trying the commercial beers, what you're generally looking at is what have they hit kind of IBU front? Basically, what's the colour like? Is the flavour right? Have they used enough hops? Am I right with that, Harry? Is that kind of what you're aiming for? The ABV, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I'll go and have a look at just how they've that particular brewery has defined the style that they've put on the front of their can. So also it'll be interesting to take some measurements if possible. Might involve sacrificing a bit of beer, but knock the CO2 out of it. Stick your hydrometer in, see what final gravity is there. Stick your pH pen in, see what pH they've finished out at. Just try and harvest as much information from that beer as you can. Read what hops they've put in on the back of the can. Do you think it's true to style? If they're calling it a dry Irish stout, for instance, do you reckon it meets that badge, or have they put lactose in it for some reason and it isn't, a dry Irish stout? So they're the kind of things that I'd be looking at. And again, that is just to give me kind of a guideline as to what I want to produce. And if there's a consensus out there that all these beers seem to be of a similar vein in a particular style, and my beer happens to kind of fit in there, then I know I've kind of hit the sweet spot, and You know, I'm not going to have any comebacks on it saying, oh, you're well out of spec on that one. Even though, of course, as we've already established, all the specs are generally relatively loose.
Yeah.
That's what I did when I was. I mean, I might as well talk about it because everybody knows it's what I'm kind of. It's one of my favorite beer styles. But when I was doing the Märzen, when I was developing that recipe, one of the things that I looked at was ABK because they're probably one of the most famous Märzen breweries in the world. And it is a fantastic beer. It's absolutely cracking. So what I was looking at was, does my style have the same amount of residual sweetness? Does it have the same color? Does it have the same mouthfeel? Do I get the same effect from the yeast as what they were getting? And
Is that right, Chris?
Absolutely, yeah. I don't.
You
Right. You look at me and
Mate,
you see
you're not
just
fucking about.
you see some bloke who
I
sits
believe
here
this. I believe
and
I believe
talks
you
bullshit.
here, but
I'm a fucking scientist, mate. Okay.
yeah, no, I 100% believe you did this. I just didn't know you did this.
If I cannot sit there and fucking analyze everything, right? You see this thing? I'll sit here and I will blaze away all night. All right. I need to blaze away because the amount of CBD I need because my joints are all fucked. But when I'm testing a beer, this gets put in a room and I don't touch it for 3 hours. And I'll rinse my mouth and I'll make sure my palate's clean. And I'll get in and I will check everything that I can check from tasting it. The gravity, I did exactly what Harry said. I shook the fuck out of that can. And then I poured 100 mil into a measuring cylinder and I measured the gravity. What's the final gravity? Oh, it's bang where mine's going to be. That's perfect. You have to look at these kind of things. If you're not willing to go balls deep, don't fucking do it. That's my opinion. That's the way that I work.
Yeah.
You have to look at these kinds of things because without it, you're going to end up with something which is nowhere near where you need to be or where you want to be, more to the point.
That's cool. No, that is interesting. Like how you,
I mean,
when you're taking this. This is you taking recipe development now. Yeah, this is how you're almost cloning. You're talking about cloning beers.
It wasn't cloning because
but it's not a clone.
I didn't like the fact that their beer had too much residual sweetness. So for my palate, it wasn't right. So I wanted to reduce that residual sweetness. So I dropped the amount of Munich. That was just me.
Okay.
That was what I did. But this is all where it comes in on recipe development. And I know Tricky has developed a few of his recipes really, really well. Some of the stuff that he's produced, that he's done multiple times, I know that he's honed it in the same way. I know that Harry's done the same thing. And weirdly enough, you may sit there having a fucking laugh with your Biker Dad t-shirt on, but I know you've done shit that's exactly the same as well.
Of course I have.
We all want to end up with a recipe where we want it to be. Harry's just selling this shit. We're all fucking drinking it.
See that low ABV session pale thing? That is what I have been developing. Like I've been going through all the different malts, like we're talking about white wheat, or like looking at like the different base malts, like Golden Promise, or just the Pops Pale, different water additions. What mixing up chloride or sulfate heavy. Looking at that, and then just what is it? The hopping amounts. Like even going trying flaked wheat, or the what I'm doing just now is like going oats again, because oats, like if you try to package oats is the one that's going to go purple. So I've always tried to avoid, but then I've went back to trying different oats. So yeah, like I'm all over that recipe development to find that perfect session pale, because that is the pale I want in the house on tap, So I'm trying to find the perfect one, and I'm more open to just messing about with malts and seeing, we're talking about white wheat and all that sort of stuff, and just seeing what is the best.
I got from that CBD in beer, Chris. I just couldn't stop thinking about it. I've actually just Googled the law while you were talking about it.
No, you can put it in. It's perfectly legal.
Yeah, I think you have to declare it. There's something under the EU legislation which the UK is still going to keep.
Yeah, you have to declare it on the can. Yeah.
No, you have to have a permission. Basically, you have to tell a licensing department that you're going to do it, and they have to give you like another piece of paper to say that they know. Yeah,
because it is a thing. CBD and beer is a thing, isn't it?
You don't have to do it as a home brewer, though.
I think the Americans are starting to get into that.
Mm-hmm. But no, I just thought about it. I was thinking about it the other day, and he's just triggered that little neuron again.
Yeah, golden nugget.
I have noticed that through the vast majority of this podcast, Tricky's been sitting back drinking his beer, wearing his Weird Fish t-shirt. Now, I've got the same Weird Fish t-shirt in exactly the same colour. Undoubtedly, 1 or 2 sizes larger. However, you've been sat there not actually saying much, mate, just getting hammered. So let us into the secret of you. I mean, Tricky getting pissed on a podcast?
Who do you think you're talking to? I would never get drunk on a podcast.
I just want to say right here, right now, okay, before anybody else interrupts me, I want to say, for those of you who are buying Brutal shit, for those of you who've got a 4,000 fucking brewery sitting in your shed or whatever it is, if you are not buying at least 5 fucking tickets to Tricky's raffle, I'm going to be pissed off with you. I'm going to find you. I'm going to fucking hunt you down. I'm going to make you drink.
Hang on, Chris.
3-year-old fucking beer.
Hey, stop! If you bought tickets, mate.
I've already bought them.
He has.
Oh, did he? Right, good.
To be fair, there is somebody who's actually donated prizes for the raffle who then pretty much can't buy the tickets as a result. So,
he can still buy. He's just eligible for those draws. Surely,
it's complicated. It wouldn't work like that because it's
it's a shame. I'll tell you what.
I'll throw you some beers in, Trick.
What, as a prize?
Yeah, man.
Oh, awesome! Thank you very much.
Very quick.
Yeah, I'll add that. I'll add that on now. Actually, as an extra prize.
Yeah,
I'll do it. You guys get in the raffle.
I'll chuck in a 12, a mixed pack of 12 cans.
Oh,
there you go.
That's a good prize.
Thanks very much, Harry. That's awesome.
Stewie Prince has just jumped in and says he's going to donate £100 tomorrow. Well, I'll tell you what, Stewie, I'm going to buy 4 more tickets, and I'm going to buy them in your name. And if you win, and it's your own prize, you get to keep it. How about that?
He doesn't want it.
I've got to do something for Stewie Prince. I've given him a load of shit on this podcast, but I love Stewie to bits. He's my little Velcro coat wearing sheepshagger, and I love him to bits. And the bottom line is, I'm going to buy a bunch of tickets. I'm going to note those bunch of tickets in the second lot. And if anything wins, Stewie, it's yours, mate. I love you. Even though you're bald and you shag sheep and you've got a beard.
And you're cuddly.
He is. He's a fucking top lad, is Stewie. I give him a load of shit, but he's a fucking top lad. To be fair, we both worked in the same industry for many, many years. I give him crap, but I love him to bits. He's fucking aces, Stewie. So anyway, let's get back to this podcast. We're 2 hours and 10 minutes in, and we've not really talked about much. So, tweaking recipes. Now, I'm going to jump in on this one.
That means something completely different in America, you know.
Twerking or tweaking?
Tweaking.
I don't know. I'm not American. Yeah. Nipples. Tuning for Radio 1. No. Tricky, I know for a fact you've done a couple of recipes specific. I can't remember what they were, but you've sent them to me. You send me a lot of beer mail, mate. Tell me how it was that you went about from your first iteration to your final iteration or your current iteration of those particular beers. Because I know that there's a few that you've produced a few of that were the same thing.
I mean, there's probably there's like a bitter recipe that I've gone through a few.
Was it? What was it called? Was it?
And this is probably
Bob's Best or something.
Not that particular one, but the I think what did I forgot what I even called it now. Probably Northern Soul Bitter or something like that. I think. But it was the one that I basically started using amber malt in, and I think that's the one that might have given you an idea to be using amber malt.
It wasn't Barry's Best then.
Bitter. No, Barry's Best was one that I specifically made for the father-in-law to keep him sweet during lockdown. But
calm him down.
Yeah,
that's a good idea.
How much CBD did you put in that beer?
All of it. But no, so actually, it's an interesting one to talk about actually, because it kind of goes from the stuff that we were talking about at the beginning up to the kind of repetition and incremental changes and everything that we've got on the list now. So originally that beer, I kind of got the initial ideas for that from listening to one of the brewers from Timothy Taylor talking about Boltmaker, and they specifically mentioned on that using amber malt in the grist and the particular hops that they used in it and stuff. So it kind of started out as a sort of loosely fashioned kind of clone recipe based on Timothy Taylor's Boltmaker. So I was just aiming for a sort of 4% ish, some kind of session bitter or best bitter or whatever. And I think most of the time tweaking that was kind of just playing around with the quantity of amber malt that went into it, maybe changing the base malts as well. So trying out Timothy Taylor's used kind of Golden Promise, I think, as their sort of standard base malt, and then trying that versus like Maris Otter and different base malts to see what you get, and then just sort of changing out the hops. But yeah, generally it would be kind of one or maybe two changes at a time, no more than that, and chipping away at it until I got to the sort of version that I was happy with, and it ended up not a clone of Boltmaker anymore. It just ended up as the beer that I sort of wanted at the end instead. But I think that's what we're kind of talking
Tricky,
about.
if you ever got like you make a change and then it's like not as good, and you're like, what have I done?
Yeah. A lot, yeah.
Yeah, it's like
it was swapping out. What was I using? I was using Nottingham for my persistently bitter, and it was swapping out Nottingham for SO4.
I've done exactly the same thing. Yeah, I was just trying to think of an example where I've swapped something out and it's been worse. None were coming to mind. But yeah, 04 is not a good substitute for Nottingham. It doesn't work.
04 works in stouts for me personally.
Well, I still use Notty in stouts. And Notty in the stout is a different beast altogether. It must like the dark malts. We have blowouts all the time with it. Just blows the top on every fermenter, regardless of headspace. But it's one of my go-tos.
What was lacking or what was different when you switched to SO4 versus the Nottingham and the other beers?
Well, I initially had, I think, more fusel alcohols in there was what I noticed straight away. A higher kind of, there was a lingering acetaldehyde, left over in the beer, which was just above like the detectable levels.
Yeah.
I went back to Nottingham, gone.
Super.
So Nottingham's cleaning it up better, yeah. And there was no other change. It was just like, shit, I haven't got any Nottingham ale yeast. Oh, 04 is an English ale. Let's dump it in. And no, it just didn't like it.
That's a classic example of the 7Ps not working for you, isn't it?
Yeah. All 7 of them. Every single one of those Ps.
You don't know what the 7Ps are?
No.
Prior preparation and planning prevents piss poor performance.
Yeah, I do. Yes, I've heard it before. Slipped my mind. I didn't plan for the 7Ps coming out in the podcast, so obviously.
Let me see. Well, that's 8Ps then, really, isn't
it?
It's
another example.
It's all one of them wonderful things.
Prior podcast preparation.
I will talk about persistently bitter because I'm currently on version 8. It's in a fermenter, literally back there. It would actually be in a keg and in a glass, and I would be drinking it if it weren't for the fact that my hand pull's got a problem, which I'm going to talk to Harry about later. Yeah. But Tricky mentioned it about the amber malt. It was Tricky that I got the amber malt idea from. And it was tricky, and if I was to dig out the bag from that box right there, I'd be able to tell you the exact date it was that Tricky actually had the conversation with me about the amber malt, because it was that day. It was whilst I was talking to him that I actually ordered the amber malt. But the bottom line is, when you're developing a recipe, it's not as simple as simply going through iterations. There has to be a spark. There has to be an angel or a devil on your shoulder, or some sort of inspiration that you have that encourages you, or in my case, compels you to make a change. And whether that change is going to be a good thing or a bad thing, you don't really know. And I think this applies to both commercial and homebrew. There is a certain alchemy to when it comes to making those changes to a recipe. They're always made for a reason, whether that reason is inspirational, whether it is flavor-based, aroma-based, or whether it was simply, I don't fucking have any of that based. It's completely different. You know, that's the variable within it, but the change has to be made. And developing that recipe and getting it to the point where you're happy. For us, it's being able to drink it. For Harry, it's being able to sell it. That is, for me, the entire crux of recipe development. Is the change made because you need to? Is it made because you want to? Or is it made because somebody's told you that you should? And I think that is kind of the basis for me, specifically for me, of all recipe development. It comes down to one of those three things. Does everybody, I mean, do you guys agree? Do you not agree?
I'd say don't let anybody else tell you how to brew your beer, because if it went wrong, you'd be very upset with them, I think, wouldn't you? If they said, I think you should leave this.
So.
Well,
I like that guy.
I think if you've got any changes to make in a recipe, it has to be off your own back, I reckon, because ultimately you need to be happy with it. And then if it does work out, they're going to take credit for it, aren't they? So,
fuck
you know,
off.
it's another one.
The difference is, though, Harry, you don't have to tell them.
No.
There we go.
I think
until you share the recipe with them.
It's an interesting point. So we've got in the notes there, sort of talking about further developing your beers via kind of feedback from others and sharing your beers out and entering competitions and stuff. And I think you know, there's always going to be some sort of useful nuggets of information that you might get from doing that, but at the same time, like particularly with things like competition feedback, the judges are never privy to the full details of sort of how you've gone about your brewing or what issues there might have been when you were making the beer. So really, you know, even if they're identifying things that perhaps could be improved, in terms of actually telling you what to do to change them, it's always a bit of a completely, sort of pot luck, really, if they happen to pick out the specific thing that was actually at fault. I mean, you know, if they're a really good judge, they might be able to hone in on the likely issues or potential things that you could do to improve it. But at the end of the day, you've always got to interpret that yourself, like Harry's sort of saying, and, you know, not just take somebody else's word for it that this is what you should or have to do to make your beer better. You kind of need to base that on your own experience of what you've done, and hopefully the notes and the detailed records that you've been keeping along the way, so that you can actually go back to that and go, okay, well, actually, I think this is maybe where something can be tweaked or improved, or there's a fault or an issue that I can adjust, I guess.
Yeah, I was saying it more in terms of if somebody's telling you to swap a hop or change the malt, but
yeah,
undoubtedly, listening to feedback is a key principle in recipe development, I think, because you need to know that your recipe's kind of it might be a lovely beer to you, but it might not be a lovely beer to everybody else. And in my world, that's quite an important aspect.
Yeah.
And then there's also the case that I know a lot of people who come and drink in my pub and they don't necessarily have a full palate. So there's a guy who can't perceive bitterness. So he comes in, he drinks these really hoppy beers, and he's like, oh, that one's a little bit too sweet for me. I'm like, you're getting sweet off that. Yeah,
Has that man shaved his tongue? Is that what he's done?
I don't know what he's done.
Not getting the bitterness, balancing it out.
But it's just like, this has taken the enamel off my teeth, and you think it's sweet. So then there's also the other direction where you might not be picking up certain like flavors or profiles or aroma profiles in the beer, and to have that feedback off somebody else, I think it's quite important. There are few hops, for instance, that will express onion on the aroma, And I think there are only a few people in the population who have this particular receptor in the nose to pick it up. So to most of us, it smells lovely, but some people, they can pick up like a garlicky allium kind of note to it. So all this, I think, is important anecdotal feedback for you to go into developing your recipe and deciding what to change.
Just one quick one for you. Has anyone ever drunk a beer, just like Harry's just said, where you've got a little bit of a cold, and you taste a beer, and it tastes utterly different to what it does when you don't have a cold?
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, I've done it.
I always seem to get garlic.
What I'm surprised at is, see my homebrew, how much it changes over the lifetime of it drinking it.
Yeah.
It can totally transform, like completely change over the lifespan of when it's coming out of my tap.
Yeah. I call it a bell curve of flavour profile.
Oh my God, I love you, Harry. Thank you. Bell curve. Fucking wonderful. Gaussian distribution, motherfuckers.
But, some beers will go into cask. They'll go into cask, and we might pull one or two out pretty green and put them on the bar. People love them. I'll try them, and I think it's a little bit on the green side, this one. And then when we get to like the last of the batch, if it's been a beer such as the Amber Ale, for instance, that we made last year, we hung on to a few of those, and we've still got some in the cellar now. And that beer, malt forward, it's gone on the bar, and it's an absolute different beast to what it was when we made it last year. It's definitely mellowed out. Yep. It's expressing so many complex characteristics from the malt that weren't there originally.
Is that the American Amber Ale? You did 4 for can?
I think, yes.
I'm just looking at my fridge right now. There's a sticker on my fridge. Harrison's 4 for can, October 2020, American Amber Ale.
Yeah, so they were
6.2.
That's the one. So we sold the cans in October, and we're in June now, and we've got one of those. We've still got one in the cellar, one of the casks. And if I brew that again, I think on the cans, I'm probably going to stick 2 years best before date on them or something like that, because I reckon they'll improve. Age this one, put it away kind of thing.
Yep.
And same with the casks. There's a lot to be said with just, doing your own little barrel aging project, if you like, and sticking something to one side. I went to a SEBA competition with a chap called Phil Greenway, who owns a brewery just south of Leicester. But I can't remember the name of his brewery, so I can't give him a plug or anything. But he won Best in Show at this regional SEBA Awards for mild that he'd just thrown in the back of the brewery for like 2 years, and fetched it out and thought, you know what, let's have a punt. And it came in and it won. Yeah, so you wouldn't expect it to happen, but without a doubt, flavor profiles changed massively in packaging. And
I've got a bock. I had a bock, and I did a video on it, and I was like, I don't really like this, and I was just upfront and honest with folks. I was like, it's not great. And see,
before you say it, 3 months, right?
I don't know, maybe
3 months.
How long were you drinking that beer after you'd brewed it when you did the video?
Maybe about 6 to 8 weeks or so.
Yeah, that's like...
And I reviewed it. And see now, it's a total different beer.
That's an infant beer at that age for a pot,
and
especially.
when you get, that's the thing though, some beers, it just needs significant time. And
I've always found that it is the malt forward ones that tend, will just not, they're just not right. Like for the first few months, it's especially when obviously as you're going up the strengths, that bock would have been what, like 6% or
6.1,
so,
something like that.
Fairly hefty, like malt forward beer like that. Needs the time.
Andy, that's a fucking amateur mistake. I mean, that's a schoolboy error done.
That's interesting. No, it's
really a good point, though, isn't it? Especially when you're talking about recipe development, it's kind of a moving target at some, for some beers where, you don't want to be rebrewing that sort of 6 weeks after you brewed it on the basis of how it tastes at that point, when it's going to be a totally different beer in another 2-3 months' time when it's maybe had a chance to lager properly and the malts have really come together and
Calm down.
settled
and,
down, and just melded
Also-
a little bit.
Just to draw attention to one of my recipes again, because that's what I do. Pat myself on the back. When Owen did his beer review of his Hampel and he talked about the persistently bitter,
Exactly what I was thinking, Chris.
he smashed the shit out of that keg in 2 weeks because it's Owen and that's what he does. And to be fair, I can't fault him because even
The last
brand
pint,
new,
he said the last one, yeah.
the last 4 pints it was, he said,
Oh,
the beer totally changes. And it really does. 4 weeks in the keg, if you drink a pint the day you keg it, and then you drink the same beer 4 weeks later, it's literally like you're drinking a different beer. Okay?
Yeah.
And this is something, like Tricky's just said, it's very important recipe development. A malt-forward beer with a low ABV, you can generally drink it after about 3 to 4 weeks, and it's going to be bang on. A high ABV beer, which is malt-forward, you better leave that sumbitch 10, 12 weeks. Because otherwise, you're going to get a completely inaccurate malt beer flavor profile off of that beer. And this really is something which applies to both commercial and to homebrew, because all of a sudden you've got a beer which is utterly different depending on when you drink it. And that's something which is very, very, very relevant when it comes to recipe development. Because like Tricky just said, if you rebrew it after 3 weeks because you've caned it all, and all of a sudden you're like, well, I didn't like it, I'm going to change everything. Well, what happens if you were to give it 12 weeks? What happens if you were to give it 6 weeks? What happens if you were to give it 9 weeks? All of a sudden you've got a completely different flavor profile on your hands. It might be exactly what you want. It might just need 12 weeks to calm the fuck down.
Consistency is king in commercial brewing, I think. So you have to kind of keep your eye on the ball when it comes to leaving stuff to age and change in the keg or cask. If your customers are expecting one thing and they're getting something else. Fortunately, I think not everyone's palate is good enough to pick up subtle changes that might happen on beers, particularly when you've cellared them well anyway. So I'd like to think that my stuff that goes onto the bar has had enough time to do, certainly move out of the green phase and do most of its maturing before it ends up on the bar.
Yeah.
But there are some of the beers. Yeah. But there are some of the beers that we have to kind of push through just simply because of demand. And generally, most people drink them without having the nose out of joint. But we've got our local camera chairman, Mr. French.
Name and shame.
He keeps in your toes. No.
Name and shame.
He keeps them on your toes.
Harry, have you done something different with the vacant this week? No, Dave, I haven't. No, it's not as bitter. Oh, isn't it? What was it like last week? It was more bitter last week. It's the same batch, Dave. Every time.
It's just had another extra week.
Same beer I brew every week, Dave.
Let's just had an extra week.
I love the call out by name.
Yeah,
he's not going to listen to this podcast, though, is he? Let's face it.
No, but he's a lovely man. We're good mates, and he won't mind me winding him up a little bit. But it's just like he's one of these guys where people kind of they do impressions of him in the pub. Do you know what I mean? Because he takes 40 minutes to tell you a story. He's like one of these really slow talkers. He's like, did you know last week when I came in? And it's like, fucking hell, Dave.
Like, Dave, I've ordered a kebab. For fuck's sake, man, spit it out. Now, Harry, I will say that I know this is a clone of Vacant, but if your version's anything like this, send me a 24-pack, will you?
Yeah, I will do.
Cheers, son.
Whose is that one, sorry?
This is Johnny Pollock's.
Okay.
And John, he came down. He lives literally up the road from me in Greenock, and he came down with his daughter Isla, and so it was quite funny because Jessica was in as well, and the two of them are 3. So straight away, the two of them are like, away they went, and they were playing together quite happily. And I gave Johnny Pot the full brewery tour as well of the high road.
Did he not arrest you for only having 2.5 psi max boost? Because to be fair, he should have done.
Max boost, jeez, oh. No, it's it. Nah, so no, it was really good. It's quite. It was nice finally meeting him as well. But it's surprising actually because he only just stays up the road, so it's a good guy.
Yeah, it's always nice to hook up with your local brewers.
Well, you're only in Retford, mate. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, we all want to get down. Yeah, we all want to get down to the.
We need to sort it out. We need to sort it out.
Oh.
Do you have any? Do you have a smoker or like a barbecue or anything for making decent meat in your kitchen?
I did have a smoker but I gave it away to my chef because I wasn't using it. So I was like, "You use it," because I know he'll get more use. It was an Oklahoma Joe.
Oh, is that the one you had in the back garden?
That's the one, yeah. But I've donated it to a good cause. Let him. I've delegated the smoking, haven't I? Basically to my head chef. But no, we've got a massive grill in the kitchen. Like it's 1 meter wide by 800 deep. 8 gas burners on it, massive grills. We cook some I felt like getting on it with an apple in my mouth, just for some like funny shots. But I've not done it yet, in case EHO come in and close us down.
Stewie Prince has just pointed out that you will need some vacant on tap when the masses land on you, and Stewie's going to need a minimum of half a cask.
Yeah, we can do that. I'll make sure I've like double brewed the week or the month before.
Just take this as a warning that when we descend, mate, we're gonna fucking drink you dry. That's all I'm saying.
Challenge accepted.
And to be honest,
that's what I was gonna say.
If there's anything
I'm
less
pretty
than
sure people were drinking straight out of the fermenters last time you had a load of brown down, weren't they?
That was really funny.
If there's anything less than a £1 cheeseburger on the menu, I'm going to be disappointed.
No, there's no £1 cheese. Oh, we've just done a double stack burger, actually, special the other week. I just put a photo on the website recently of it because we're changing out all the stock photos slowly for ours. When I built
that one out. That's all I'm saying.
You want a £1 cheeseburger or you don't?
Hell yes.
You do?
Yes.
Well, on your way down, just nip into McDonald's on the way.
No, I'm not fucking going to McDonald's. Fuck off.
He wants a Harrison's food challenge with a T-shirt that he gets when he takes your burger down.
So now, Harry, have you been doing all the photos? Harry, have you been doing all the photography?
Not all of it, no. The chef's brother-in-law came down. He's got a little company called Jack Tech Visuals. He did it. He's just getting into it. So he was like, "Oh, come and take some snaps for free that you can use on the on the website."
The best kind.
That's the best price.
Yeah, the best kind. But the reason was I was going to do them all anyway, because I've got the gear but no idea, as they say.
Oh, right.
So I just thought I'll just whip the Canon out and put a nice nifty 50 lens on there and take some snaps.
Get an f1.8, boom.
Yeah, that's the key. Yeah, get that bokeh on the go.
Get the bokeh.
It's fucking talking German to me.
No, we're talking just photography.
Yeah, exactly, German.
But yeah, it was slowly building up. Sometimes, like this burger picture, Stuart snapped it on his iPhone, and it was like it actually worked. So it must have had some battery power in it, and it turned out to be a really good pick. So I was like, I'm going to use that. And we'd not done one. We don't really. Tom came from it was called Dude v Food, the pub that he worked at before. So they had a big focus on American food and hot wings and all that kind of stuff. It's not the kind of thing. It's not the kind of thing that we do. We're more traditional pub food, but with a little bit of a bit of flair on it and a bit more. Definitely focus on the home cooked stuff. But I think he's creeping into it a little bit now. And
just while we're at this point, I would like to take this opportunity to say, what's it called? Your pub? Is it the Brew Shed?
The Brew Shed in Retford, yeah.
Right. So the Brew Shed in Retford. If you're anywhere near Retford, you need to go in, speak to Harry, talk to the chef, talk to anybody who's in there. right? This guy clearly has his hand and his heart and his eye on great beer, great food, and great customer service. Okay, you've heard him talk. He's thrown batches down the drain because it didn't meet his standards. Clearly, the beer is going to be the fucking shit at this pub. Now, fair enough, it's only an hour from me, but we're under lockdown. I can't really travel that far. And to be fair, I am going to make it down there at some point. And Harry, you are going to have to put up with me eating a fuckload of food and drinking a shitload of your beer, which I'm sure won't bother you because there's money that comes with that, which is golden. However, this man clearly has his shit together and he needs to sort himself out as far as, or you need to sort yourself out rather, that's the correct way of putting it. You need to sort yourself out. You need to get yourself to the brew shed. You need to meet Harry. You need to do his beer. You need to do his food, and you need to sit there because Retford's a beautiful part of the world. It really is. It really is. All right. I used to go shooting just outside of Retford quite a lot. I've got a mate who owns a deer farm, which ain't too far from Retford. And I've been down there shooting deer on many, many occasions. But unfortunately, it was at the time when I didn't really drink. It was during my 3 years of being completely dry. Otherwise, I would have probably been into the brew shed if Harry had set it up at that point, and I would have been drinking and I would have been eating. Well, I didn't really go down there at that point. But the point is, Retford's literally on your way back from Sherwood Forest for me. So for me, it would have been perfect. If you're down there and you're around there and you're anywhere near Retford, take a trip, go and see Harry at the brew shed. You need to get a pimping on this, man. If you need
any welding done, just speak to Harry.
Or you need canning line making, or anything about that.
If you want any tutorials on any tutorials on how to weld, then just watch Harry's videos.
You'll find a tutorial on basically anything on Harry's videos, I think.
If you're struggling to get a pass to come down, though, Chris is right. Retford is a lovely town. We've got a massive church in the town, which is as big as like Doncaster Minster, and this is just like a little parish church.
It's gorgeous, mate.
There are about like 15 churches in Retford, and we've got a population of 22,000. So there must either all be religious nuts, or there's something definitely going on at some point. We've got a charter in like 1100, so it's nearly 1,000 years old. Retford. Tons of architecture for you to go and look at. Loads of local independent shops on the high street. We've still got the charity shops and the closed down ones, but we have quite a nice independent vibe going on. And there's plenty for the other half to do while you sit in the brew shed. And
I will also point out, as a bloke who loves his mountain biking and to a certain extent likes walking, only with the kids, but Retford has some fantastic cycle trails. It has some wonderful single track. It also has some fantastic rambling spots. If you want to just go and enjoy nature, Retford is a great place because at the end of it, you can call in at the brew shed and get hammered on decent beer.
Canal, river, links to Sherwood Forest, Sherwood Pines.
It's banging,
all
mate.
on the doorstep. Yeah, there's a lot going on.
It's a great place.
I'm there.
It is a fucking great place. It really is.
Next weekend. Lads.
Put me in.
I mean, it's a bit too far south for me, but it's pretty good.
No, we're still. I think we're north enough. We're just surprised on the South York's border, so you don't really have to come too far out your territory, mate.
I'm surprised he's not actually sitting there drinking shandy.
He can ride his whippet down to see you with his flat cap on, and
it's awesome. It's a fucking great place, is Retford. I've got a few mates who live on the outskirts of Retford, and it is a fucking fantastic place. It really is. And also, they do proper good beer, which is another good reason to visit Retford. I mean, Johan is talking about it at the moment. I know is he Belgium or Holland? Is one of the two. It's one of those countries that speaks with in their voice. You need to get over to England, mate, and you need to get some of this stuff down your neck because it's banging. Anyway, before we carry on with the communal circle jerk, let's talk about the final part, which is the further development bit of developing your recipes, because there are a few things that is Dutch. I knew it was one of those. Oh no, you're not a Max Verstappen fan, are you, Johan? Because that could really put a downer on our relationship.
Just stop the tangents, Chris. Go on, crack on.
The main thing 2.5 PSI. The most thing that the thing that's going to help your development and your development of your recipes and the improvement of your recipes the most is always going to be feedback. Okay, sending it out to certain people. Tricky is a good person to send it to. Andy's a decent person. Timmy, JP, what's his name? The Ginger Ninja. What's his name?
Graham.
Hapless, yes. Send some beer to him. They will always give you legitimate, honest feedback. Okay, there's probably other people who do it.
Or we'll just get totally pissed and forget we even drank it.
Exactly, which, to be fair, happens on a regular basis. But you're always going
to put it on Insta.
Go on.
I always try to put it on Instagram, and I always try to give like to give personal feedback to the person. So like if I have one of their beers, then I'll directly message and tell them sort of thing. Generally, like the stuff I get sent these days is amazing.
Excuse me.
Generally, there's one or two folks I go, fucking hell, it's an acetaldehyde bomb. And it's like, why did you send me that? Oh, I just wanted to know what was wrong with it. And I'm like, please don't send me that.
I want to give a shout out right here, right now to J-Mac, because I know he's out. He's doing his thing. I'm not going to blow what he does for a living, but J-Mac, I know he's busy and he has been for the last 6 weeks. Your fucking Melson was banging, son.
Yeah.
It was a thing of absolute fucking beauty.
Chris, was it like yours?
Oh, it weren't far off. There weren't quite as much toffee as I get in mine, but it was very, very, very close. These are beers, and this is the thing. This is what we're talking about, okay? Tricky sends me beers. I give him feedback. I send Tricky beers. He tells me they're shit. That's understandable. However, the point is, without that feedback, you cannot improve.
First time was a bit shit, but this time was good.
Without that feedback, you cannot improve, okay? We've got the man up in the top left corner in the Brazil shirt, right? Harry, he's clearly selling his stuff. He's getting feedback every day from his customers. Without that feedback, you cannot improve. If you literally just keep it to yourself and drink it, you're going to brew what you want. It's going to taste exactly how you want it to. Clearly, you're going to think it's amazing. Without the feedback from other people.
Sorry, Harry. Do you tweak things based on what you're getting back from the pub?
Not on a very rapid
new stuff,
basis,
maybe.
No.
Maybe new stuff. Would you?
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, you've got to remember some of the recipes that we've got going now. The regular stuff. They've been around for 5-6 years. Some of them.
I think maybe the last big change was the proof, and that was probably well received. And that was well received. Yeah, it was a relative new beer, but that was kind of a winner out the blocks, wasn't it? Because I think the development had been done with you guys and whatnot when you'd been passing it around the homebrew community. Yeah. And all I did was change the hops in it, really, I think. Yeah. No, it's good.
But, the beers that are on the bar at the moment, I do keep a close eye on them in terms of the quality. So the feedback I get is usually from the bar staff or Stuart, who's the cellarman, basically, and he's telling me how the beers are performing in the cellar. He's telling me how they're pouring on the bar, whether they're clear as they should be, because we've moved away from animal products in our finings, and just making sure that they're up to spec. So if I get feedback saying that the best bitter's hazy, for instance, it's something I'll be looking into. I'll be looking at the recipe sheet from the previous batch. Did I do anything different? I'll be pulling up the tilt record because we keep all of those as well now. They're quite handy to have, so we can have a look at the fermentation graphs and just make sure what went out of spec on this one. Was there anything that wasn't right? And see if we can nail it. They're an invaluable kind of just plotting that data through fermentation. Otherwise, you're just going to be having to take gravity samples and record the temps every day, which ain't nobody got time for that.
Yeah,
ain't nobody got time for that.
Preach to the converted with the tilts.
Let's not get started down this road.
Fucking tilts.
Anyway, sorry,
Chris isn't a fan.
Going back to the
I'm converted
sharing,
like you, Harry.
Sharing beers via beer mail thing. I think just the other point is it's not just about getting feedback. It's just like actually getting the beers from other people and getting the chance to try out the things that they've experimented with. So it's a bit of a shortcut. You know, for you might get to try somebody else's version of a similar beer where they've gone for a different hop combo or whatever, or different, malts and all this kind of thing. Yeah. And you can go, oh, actually, like whatever it is that you've done differently with this beer is something that I now want to try out. And you can just cherry pick all those little things that you're picking up of other people's beers and the things that they've done well that you can then integrate into your own brewing as well. Similar to what we talked about with the commercial beers, but I think with the home brewing, you're always going to tend to get a little bit more insight into what that person's done because, naturally they're going to be more willing to share sort of the recipes and details of the process and all that kind of stuff. Usually anyway.
A few years ago, there was a fantastic concept put together by a couple of brewers in New Zealand. They called it the Smash Off, and we've had similar kind of attempts at doing it in this country, but the UK version,
a number of years ago,
it kind of missed one fundamental aspect of the whole ideology behind it all. It was you all have the same bill, you say the same grain and the same recipe, and you just change one component in there. So when you do the beer swap, you know that you've brewed that same recipe as Jeff and Terry, but you've used Amarillo, he's used Galaxy, another guy's used Simcoe. And then when you swap the beers, you're getting to taste, fair enough, there's a little bit of variation in the process when it comes to their equipment profile and water and maybe their brewing method. But the main change is going to be that hop. So you get to taste how that hop changes throughout that recipe. And then you might do the same beer again, but just swap the grain out, one of the grains out.
Tricky's literally just started this. We're just talking about this. It's like it's a golden ale that Tricky's set up as a base, and then it's 100 grams of a hop. That's the kind of the tester hop.
Not quite a smash beer, but just a very simple base recipe to sort of that is repeatable for all of us.
Yeah, I think that was just the way that they wanted to do it initially in NZ, because then you've got two variables to change, haven't you? You've got your hop on round one, then your grain on round two. I suppose you could do your yeast as well. But when we tried it in the UK a few years back, people were doing all sorts. It was just like, well, I'm going to do a smash with Galaxy and Golden Promise. I'm going to do Maris Otter and East Kent Goldings. So apart from trying an East Kent Goldings and Maris Otter beer, you didn't have anything to compare it to. You were just trying their beer. So it's basically just a massive beer swap.
Yeah, I think the Smash Off was more of about the competition element and people wanting to do a different beer in order to win the competition, as opposed to it being just like a knowledge sort of sharing thing. Like
it should have been a learning process, I think, is what the idea behind it originally was. Obviously, we spun it all differently in the UK. But when I watched all the videos for the New Zealand brewers doing it, it was really informative because they had the same beer, essentially, with just that one component changed, and everybody got to learn something from it.
New Zealand is a fucking amazing place.
I'd love to. I've never been. I'd love to go.
I've got citizenship, mate. I don't have to worry about it.
And of Scotland as well, Chris. Don't forget when we go independent.
Unfortunately, yeah. But I can go to Scotland whenever I want, unless you close.
He's Scottish, New Zealand.
Unless you're planning on rebuilding Hadrian's Wall, mate, you can't fucking keep me out. Now, the wonderful thing about sort of the whole homebrew community in the UK is the fact that people are willing to pay, £4 to send out a few beers. I think that's a brilliant thing, and I hope it never changes. Yeah. I hope it never changes. JP sent me these beers and enough stickers to sink a fucking battleship. For me, it's a wonderful thing. Do you know what I mean? It's great. Actually, Derek Hodges just asked, "Are you pissed, Harry?"
Who, me? No.
Yeah, no, I didn't think you were. I thought you were perfectly sober.
This is all beer mail. This will be beer mail. I'm not joking. It is like amount of beer mail that we get sent is ridiculous. But So I've stocked up for the beer meal.
No, I'm
That's
exactly the
thing.
same. I had to buy like 80 bottles, pet bottles, just to sort of make sure I had enough to cover.
Well, make
I'm
sure
gonna-
you grab yourself a bowl ITAP to help you with that.
Well, that was it. I'm hoping to win Tricky's one first, and then
Yeah,
if
good luck
not,
with
then
that.
I'll need to wait for my birthday. I'll need to wait for my birthday in
God's
August.
sake, don't fucking let him. Don't let him win it, Tricky. Redraw it if it's.
why?
him who
I've got
wins
no
it.
choice. It's all automated on the thing. This was one of
No,
the reasons
God.
I wanted to do
Yeah,
it.
I
Damn
bought a
it.
lot of tickets.
It all
I'll be
comes
fair
down
and
to.
swear if he wins it. So.
It all
Yeah.
comes down to the fact that
I've
got this.
paid my money.
We've got this wonderful community that helps us out, and we've got people like Harry who've come from our community. They've just decided to buy a bigger kit. Harry's still
all
a
it
core
is.
member of our community. He's just brewing on a 500-litre kit instead of a 23-litre kit. That's the difference between it. And everybody was banging on about this vacant gesture. I didn't even know who Harry was. I'll be honest. I don't pay that much attention. I don't have time to watch YouTube videos, mate. I've got 2 fucking kids and a wife who
I know
has
you
12-hour kids. It's one of them things. But I've spoken to Harry a few times. He's a fucking legend, all right? He's clearly got small batch brewing in his heart. He's also got a Brazil top on, which is cool. And I love him to bits. He's ace. He's got a beard that I wish I could grow. I can't grow a beard. But the bottom line is these people exist because they've come from homebrewing. They've just gone into commercial. And the things that they're talking about when it comes to the commercial batches, it directly applies to what we're doing. Maybe not in such a direct way, but it does definitely apply to what we're doing. And we're sitting here and we're talking about it and we're having a laugh on a podcast. And the bottom line is, this is beer. You're only going to improve if you develop your recipes. How you develop your recipes is entirely up to you. And that's the bottom line. You're going to develop it by getting feedback from other people, by trying different things, by not being limited to what you read on a Facebook post. Don't believe the bloke who tells you that dead badges in your fermenter is a good thing, because it's not. Don't ever siphon from the bottom, because that's never going to end well. If it's growing, chuck it. These are all wonderful things, and we've learned this because as a collective hive mind, we have developed what we do, and we are producing the best beer that we can with the kit that we've got, with the intelligence that we've got, and with the friends that we've got. And that, to me, is recipe development in a fucking nutshell. Raised glasses. Shall we just leave it? Shall we just leave this
Is that
one
it
there,
then?
guys?
Is that the podcast?
That sounds like a wrap up to me.
I think
that
is
sounded
the end
like
of
he was
it.
trying to kill the podcast off there.
Yeah, I know.
Have you had
haven't
enough,
got
Chris?
about software. What about software? Jeez, oh, Chris.
Do we want to do software? They're all the fucking same. Just use whichever one's easiest for you to use. But you won't get my
pretty
recipes
much.
unless you're on Brewfather. That's all I'm saying.
I think there's a lot to be said in software that's going to be around. I mean, a lot of people invested time and money into BrewToad, and then it vanished. So I think you have to choose some software that's got legs.
I would have used Bruto just for the name. I mean, that's just Brutoed. Signed up. It's one of them things, Pick what you want, pick your poison, and just go with it, because that's the end. That's the name of the game. So
yeah. Well, let's have a quick poll then. Straw poll. What do you use, Chris?
Brewfather.
Andy?
I was a beersmith, now I'm Brewfather.
Okay. What about you, Tricky?
Same as Andy. I moved from Beersmith to Brewfather.
And then you say I'm still a
recently.
smither.
Yeah.
What pulled you across then to Brewfather?
It's basically primarily the app, the phone app like integration, and the just much better sort of I guess cloud sort of functionality of it and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. See, that's like a paid premium to have the cloud extensions. So I pay for the top end on the Beersmith, so I can have it on my machine at home, have my machine at work, and when I'm editing recipes, they're all obviously being edited on the cloud.
Yeah.
Beersmith, don't get me wrong. No, but Beersmith is a really good bit of software. Like I designed a lot of really good recipes on Beersmith, so I wouldn't say it's just that Brewfather is sexier. It's more integrated across platforms.
Yeah. There's a lot of things from Beersmith that I'm like, oh, why haven't they got that in Brewfather yet as well?
Yeah,
So
because I thought Beersmith was really good for recipe development.
Yeah, well, that's what I use it for. So I use two programs at work: Beersmith for recipe development, and then we have ViewPlan BMS, brewery management software. And we use that for keeping track of duty and ingredients and stock, and keeping all the files in check for HMRC. But it's absolutely shit for recipe development.
I think what a lot of people like about Brewfather as well, it does seem to be very much in a current kind of development,
it's moving.
Thing,
it's constantly development. You'll get an update. Oh, it's now updated and there's new things.
The things that I want to be incorporated will probably happen down the line fairly soon. Whereas I guess for a lot of us, maybe the stuff that we wanted to change with Beersmith there didn't seem to be any movement.
They were very slow. They still are very slow in terms of testing and moving forwards.
Because they had an app
ingredients
for it, but it didn't really work.
That's the thing. So ingredients in Beersmith is like very limited. And see, Brewfather, if there's a new ingredient, it's there. As soon as it comes out and it gets put on, it's like straight out. It's like a constant development, whereas Beersmith, you've got to wait.
Yeah, I have to add my own. I'm constantly putting my own ingredient profiles in there because they don't exist.
Yeah, exactly.
Or sometimes when I moved on to the Beersmith 3 from Beersmith 2, unless you kind of import your like legacy archive for the hops and everything else that were on Beersmith 2, let's say that like there's a shared folder somewhere which you have to import. I lost half of the hops. So I was like, where's Citragon and that kind of thing?
Harry, see the porting from Beersmith to Brewfather, they've made it super easy. Yeah, see all those recipes you've done, right?
Just do an export and then an import.
Oh, it goes straight in and everything's there and it works.
It's legit.
Because
that was
a Beersmith file.
Really easy.
They call them .bsmx, don't they? But actually, it's just like it's just a text document. If you open it up,
Beer XML. That's all it is.
Yeah, and
it's an XML file.
Because I couldn't upload them to the website in order for people to download them, so I had to zip it all. And then the guy who does a bit of web developing for me is like, it's just a raw text file. There's nothing in there.
Yeah,
it's not a fancy extension or anything like that. So as soon as you figure that out, it'd be easy to import everything across, I would imagine.
Which they have.
The main thing for me was being a craft beer pie user. It's the API. It's the ability to take information direct from your tilt direct into the program. That was a thing for me. I mean, obviously, I don't use a tilt because I'm, not an idiot. I would use an iSpindle. Because it's got Wi-Fi and therefore is infinitely better. But whichever version you use, the ability to import that data directly into your brewing software for me was a killer. But because I'm gonna pimp him right now, okay? Alexander Volkov.
Oh yeah, you work with him.
He is a fucking legend. His ability to develop software is, as far as I'm concerned, second to none. Right, the guy Manuel who designed Craft Beer Pie 4, he did half a job and then he fucked off and nobody knows where he's gone. So Alex is basically fixing everything. And the fact is now he's working on an API which allows you to log into your Brewfather account, select a recipe, click go. It imports it into the Craft Beer Pie program. So all your hop additions, your timings, your temperatures and everything are automatically there. And
Harry,
that's the next thing for your brewery, mate. Craft beer
certainly
pie.
Sounding like I might be migrating at some point in the future.
And as soon as that happens,
honestly,
as soon as you can set that up, your brew day has just got infinitely easier because everything's there.
So you know how you've got all your timers are all thingied and it's all manual sort of thing, Harry. It's like So the kettle will turn on in the morning. See this software? The software will turn it on. It'll turn the pump on. Knows to turn the pump, and then it will know how to set the kettle temp. And then when you mash in, it'll hold your mash temp, and then it'll also then see if you had a Herms system in the thing, it would then automatically, after the 60-minute mash, it would then raise up the temp to 76 to mash out and all that. The thing just does it off the bat. It just, it's where you're hardwiring these program functions. This thing does it, and it just controls the solid state relays.
Yeah, what I have to be careful
about you've got
is because I need to scale these up onto the big kit at the minute. The big kit's it's just dumb machinery. It's plug and play, and it hasn't got any brains. So I don't want the pilot kit, for instance, to get too complex and complicated. Like I've got a Herm system on the pilot kit, but I don't have one on the small kit. So
would you ever? Would you?
No, I'd probably go down rims maybe,
right,
and just have like a separate like 6-inch tube with a heat element in the bottom of it or something like that. Is it a rims, that one?
Why wouldn't you go rims?
Well, where am I going to put a big coil?
Because at 500 litres, Andy, it's a bit fucking difficult.
Yeah, I can't fit it. When I mash in, I half empty my HLT, you see, because I'm underrunning. My HLT is about 400 litres too small, so I have to strike and then top up, which is a ball ache. So who knows? Maybe when we scale up the kit next time, I'll be building a new control panel for that, so I could incorporate something a little bit more like remote.
Get in touch.
Accessible.
Get in touch.
We'll sort you out, mate. We got you covered.
Yeah.
We'll sort you out.
We got you covered, son.
But not that we're just talking to the absolute genius that built his own cannon machine with his own programming and stuff. You know what I mean?
His welding's
all
right.
To the programming.
He might suss it out on his own, lads. Don't worry.
Yeah, he'll just build his own flipping brewery controller.
The man can weld, but can he solder? That's the difference.
Yeah, he can. Fucking right, he can.
It's all it comes down to. I'm only joking. All it comes down to is.
Seen his panels?
I have actually. They're fucking beautiful. They're way better than mine. Mine's a piece of shit. It fucking fell apart the last time I used it.
This was on fire last time I used it because of his soldering skills.
Actually, weirdly enough, one of my commando sockets, the inside is broken off. So when I try and plug stuff in, it literally pushes all the cables out from inside, which is a bit shit. But
that's not ideal.
It's just cheap tat. It all comes down to feedback that you can get and your ability to develop the recipe based on feedback. Harry's doing it from his customers. We're doing it from other people. And I think if you don't develop your recipes, you've either been incredibly lucky or you've used someone else's recipe who's done that development for you. I think that's the bottom line.
Sounds good to me.
At 3 hours and 4 minutes, I think that's the bottom line.
That's the bottom line.
Do you understand what I'm saying, guys?
Call it there, yeah.
That's the bottom line.
Yeah, because we've got 30 minutes of after party to do on this one.
I've got sweaty ears from having these headphones on for so long as well.
To be fair, I think my fucking eardrums are swimming. So, cool. Yeah. Harry, I just want to say thank you for being our Owen for the evening. You're far better looking.
I don't know. Owen's pretty sexy.
What can I say? I like beards.
Depends what you're looking for in a man.
I like beards.
That's it.
Tickle your balls. It's all good. Thanks for coming on, mate. Thank you for doing this. It's nice to get a commercial perspective for people.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who talk about home brewing who want to go big kit or want to do this or want to do that. Would you recommend any hobbyist to move from homebrew to a commercial brewery?
Only if they've got a solid business plan in terms of route to market.
And a shitload of money, I'm guessing, yeah?
No, you can... I don't buy into this.
No,
people say you can't start a restaurant without £100,000.
You did it.
I did it. I did it in debt. I was in debt before I started doing it. And then I got more in debt.
Because of COVID.
Get that £1 burger on, mate. I'll get you out of debt.
Hopefully that turns around.
There'll not be much steak mince in that burger, my friend, for £1.
Mate, you're the ultimate grafter.
You can grind a cow's ass, as far as I'm concerned, mate. It's all good. So, thank you very much, Harry. You're a legend. Tricky, you've said virtually fuck all, but I love you and your beard. Andy, your T-shirt is a bit strange, but we love you. Okay.
It says, "I'm a biker dad." What's it? It says, "I'm a biker dad,"
just like a normal dad, but much cooler.
Much fucking killer.
Yeah, except you drive a Triumph. So,
SP twin.
Yeah, exactly. Couldn't even get a
And a
triple.
Fireblade.
Couldn't even get a triple. What can I say?
No, because the twin's cooler.
I'll give up. I love you, Andy. You're ace. Now, thank you very much, guys. Going into Tricky's raffle. The proceeds from that raffle are going to a very, very good cause. Diabetes UK and NHS Charities United, is it, or something?
NHS Altogether.
NHS Altogether. This is a great charity. If you've got a brutal
there's 12
system
of Harry's beers in the raffle now, so there wasn't any reason for you not to enter before. Now you've got one.
I need to enter. I need those beers. So guys, go and enter. Support Tricky. It's a really good charity. And we want to see you next time on episode 30, which I have plans for. I have plans for episode 30.
You haven't told us those plans.
You're damn
He's
right.
He's going to wear pants this time.
I'm not going to wear pants.
He's going to go naked.
I'm not going to wear pants. I'm going to do it with my nipples out and I'm going to get them pierced just for you guys. Thanks very much for joining us. Episode 29, Recipe Development. Hope you've learned something. Take care, guys, and we will see you soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Stop. Right. Harry, I will send you a link to upload your file so that Tricky can download it.
Yeah. So what do you want me to export it as, a WAV?
Oh, WAV.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Just give me a second, lads. This is the mother.
No worries.
Oh, well, it was.
Oh, can't have been that important then.
I'm going to call her back because she's not well.
Yeah, no worries.
I'll just
family first, mate. Family first.
Oh, Jesus, my ears are literally swimming.
Yeah, my eardrums are swimming.
That is disgusting.
It's not nice, is it?
Get another beer.
It's not nice.
Do you want me to title it anything special, Chris, or just...
Harry?
Nah, mate. Whatever you want to call it. Just call it episode 29, Harry. That's golden.
Episode 29.
Right, guys, for those of you in the chat who wish to join us for a bit of an after party, that's your link. The password is... And that's the password. I'm not going to stop the live stream until such time as anybody who wants to join has joined. The link is there. Click the link. That's the password. Copy pasta, and we will see you on. We will see you on the video pretty shortly. So, more tea, Vicar. I had the greatest. I had pulled pork tonight with homemade pickled onions, homemade pickled gherkins, and homemade gochujang chili sauce. It was fucking spectacular. And Hokkaido milk rolls. Man, I swear to God, it was epic.
Oh, fuck.
That's the word. That's what I said many, many times whilst I was eating it. It's not the wrong password, Martin. It's not the wrong password. You've typed it in wrong, buddy. Johan! Last mic, right there.
That's Richard.
Oh, yo. Brooksy's straight in. Brooksy, that. Where was it? Where is it? Is that it? Yeah, this.
Enjoyed it that much, yeah?
I am slightly pissed. I've had 6 pints. Seriously, send me the recipe for this.
Right? There was nothing special in that. That was one.
No, you're misunderstanding. Send me the recipe for this. I demand it.
Will do.
You and your perfectly coiffured quiff.
If I export, yeah.
I wouldn't go that far.
It's a banger, is that, mate? That's a really, really nice beer. The tartness just balanced the sweetness from the wit beer perfectly. It was gorgeous.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. To be fair, I was expecting more of a harsh feedback than that. To be fair,
I'm not going to do that to you. Right, okay. I'm cutting the YouTube stream. So anybody who's on YouTube who wants to join us on the chat, the link is there. The password is there. Neither of them are incorrect. Copy, pasta, paste it. Click on the link. Boom. Robert